Chapter 717 The Royal Dragon roared in pain. Michael traveled into the dragon's body, burning everything in his path. Just imagining Michael inside the dragon made Gaia feel the urge to throw up. She wouldn't have done that under any circumstance. The royal dragon dived down. Blood spurted out from its belly. There was nothing the royal dragon could do to stop Michael. The royal dragon tried to spit out Michael, but only blood and a blob of saliva shot out of its mouth. That fucking lizard. Gaia noticed the royal dragon flying toward the pirate ships. She leaped off from Nightmare's back as she flew toward the royal dragon. She caught up with the dragon in a few blinks of an eye. The dragon glanced at Gaia from the corner of its eyes. It roared. Gaia grabbed the side of the dragon's face, ignoring the dragon's roar. Gaia used every bit of her strength to force the dragon to turn around. If the royal dragon landed on their ships, its massive body would crush several ships, including Big Bertha. "Ghost, if you hear me, this bastard is heading for our ships. Kill it faster," said Gaia. As though Michael had heard her words, the dragon roared in agony. Gaia punched the dragon as she put all her strength into pushing the dragon to the other side. Nightmare dived down through the clouds, hitting the royal dragon like a freight train. He bit the royal dragon's wings, almost tearing it off. On the other hand, Azazel also joined Gaia. It took all the strength in their bodies to finally turn around the dragon. Considering they were close to the dragon, they were able to hear a thumping sound coming from within the dragon. The royal dragon slowly lost its strength. Its inside was burnt to jelly by the dark flames. The light of life slowly faded away from its eyes. "Victoria!" To their shock, the dragon roared Victoria's name. For the first time, they heard the royal dragon speak. The moment the dragon roared, a fist came out of the dragon's skull. Hot blood splattered on Gaia's face. Felt almost like hot lava. The dragon let out a final roar before starting to fall down. Gaia flew down and held the dragon's body on her shoulder. Veins popped up on her skin as she gritted. Every muscle in her body tensed up, carrying the massive dragon. Azazel and Nightmare did not let Gaia share the weight alone. They joined her as Azazel took the dragon's head and Nightmare lifted its lower belly. The three of them slowly turned around and headed toward the Thusian ships. Albert led the Thusians toward the pirate ships. He was able to navigate the ship around the tornado. The storm was a blessing disguised as a curse. Thanks to the storm, the mortar shells missed their target due to the heavy wind. Albert prayed to his grandfather to destroy the mortars. However, deep down he knew something was amiss. If his grandfather had succeeded, the red spotlights would have disappeared. Instead, he saw the royal dragon flying through the storm clouds. For a moment, Albert and the crew felt relieved. But their relief was short-lived. He felt something was wrong. When he looked closely at the royal dragon, he saw no movement in the dragon's body. It didn't flap its wings a single time. Albert quickly grabbed the rails in one hand to balance himself and used his spyglass to see another dragon right under the royal dragon. He moved his spyglass and saw a girl and a man with wings carrying the royal dragon. His hands automatically moved the spyglass toward the dragon's eyes. Only then did he notice the lack of light of life in its eyes. He realized it was dead. Albert's heart skipped a beat. "They are going to drop the dragon on us," he shouted. Abandon ship. Albert saw no other options. Even if they cast their most powerful spells, it would be impossible to destroy the royal dragon's body into pieces. Once it hit the ship, there was no surviving the explosion. Hence, Albert decided to abandon the ship. At least his men had a better chance of flying away. As Albert predicted, the royal dragon's colossal body fell on them with enough force to shake the entire sea. At least 20 to 30 ships were blasted off from the sea by force. Countless ships sunk under the weight of the royal dragon. The moment the dragon hit the ocean, the collision force resulted in massive tsunami waves. The waves completely overthrew the frontline ships and destroyed their formation. It was the final nail in their coffin. Albert barely managed to escape the blast. He hovered in the air with a heavy heart, looking at his ship sinking into the ocean. He clenched his fist. They were utterly defeated. Suddenly, A bolt of golden lightning struck the royal dragon. His hands instinctively covered his eyes. The flash was too bright. When he moved his hands to the side, he saw a figure slowly emerging from the lifeless corpse of the royal dragon. He was completely covered in blood, but the heavy downpour washed off the blood from his body, revealing his identity. "Ghost," Albert mumbled. Albert's nail plunged into his palm. He couldn't keep his anger in control when he saw Ghost smiling at all the death and destruction. The burning ships almost turned the dark night brighter. Michael had a glass bottle in his hand. It contained the blood of the royal dragon. Thanks to Gaia and Nightmare killing the soul refiners, Michael was able to reach the half-immortal stage level 6 when he slew the royal dragon. He summoned the system to take a look at his status window. Host: Michael cultivation level, half-immortal level 6 godhood. Fledgling god experience points. 0/5, 000, 000 badass points. 800, 000 skills and spells. Wind Blast, LVL 6 Ultimate Form Level 1 Eyes of Doom, LVL 5 Ultimate Form Level 1 Responsive Shield, LVL 8 Environment Scanning, LVL 8 Ignitia, LVL 8 Ultimate Form Level 1 Silenes, LVL 1 Lightning Dash, LVL 6 Ultimate Form Level 1 Energy Devour, LVL 5 Soul Eater, LVL 5 Death Range, LVL 3 Eyes of Darkness, Normal. Can sense the cultivation level of others' Eyes of Darkness, Lucifer. Can sense the cultivation level of others, can see through illusions cloud of darkness, Lucifer. Weak-willed enemies will lose their courage completely and surrender. Death range will be 50% more powerful, and if activated in darkness, the host's cultivation level will be boosted 4 levels up regardless of the stage barrier. Wordless Spellcaster, Lucifer. In full Lucifer form, the host just has to think of the spell to cast it. Techniques: Swords of Destiny 98% Mastery Ring of Fire 94% Master Serpent Maga 98% Mastery Occupation. The Guardian of Sunrise Sect Lord Lucifer of the Abyssal the Dark Lord status. Healthy goals: Control the world, rebuild the Order of Death utility function. Banker, LVL 5, ratio 1000 gold coins, 40 badass points. Runic Teleportation X-Ray Vision, also integrated with Eyes of Darkness. Wealth, 15 million gold special trait. 5-star Alchemist 5-star Inventor Subordinates. Gaia Warrior, Loyalty. Level 100%. Raylene, 5-star Chef, Loyalty level 99%. Arya, Assassin, Loyalty level 89%. Maxine, Warrior, Loyalty level 98%. Tiberius, Warrior, Loyalty level 75%. Sadie, Loyalty level 60%. Ricky, Loyalty level 98%. Titus, Loyalty level 70%. Optimus, Loyalty level 70%. Big Bertha Crew, Pirates, Loyalty level 93%. Base of Operation: Sunrise Sect the Abyssal the Crypt Familiars. Nightmare, Forest Dragon, Vidora, 3-headed Hydra. Elemental Manipulation. Wind, 20% Mastery. Fire, 20% Mastery. Lightning 30%. Mastery. Darkness 35%. Michael was neither happy nor disappointed at himself. All he felt was the urge to be stronger. The destruction of Thujan's ships made him happier than seeing his status window. He clenched his fist. He wanted to kill the rest of the Thujans. As soon as he exited the system, he sensed several people rushing toward him from all directions. "Let me take care of them," Michael heard Gaia's voice. But he raised his hand, wordlessly telling her to stand down. "Take care of the soldiers. Destroy half of their ships. And I will take over the rest." Gaia finished Michael's words. The soldiers flew straight toward him. All wore identical clothes. They covered their heads with dark cloaks. Michael wondered what they were trying to achieve by heading straight toward him. The strongest one among them was a fusion stage level 4 cultivator. Even if they were all fusion stage cultivators, they would have no choice. The majority of the soldiers were at the core formation stage. Michael was confused. Still, Michael did not underestimate them. He flew away from the battlefield into the dark clouds. He quickly cast the lightning dash to increase his speed. The distance between Michael and the soldiers grew quickly. Michael did not slow until he flew straight into the tornado itself. By doing this, Michael tested the soldiers' resolve to kill him. In other words, Michael wanted to see how badly they wanted him dead. To Michael's surprise, the soldiers did not slow down, not even a bit. Michael slowly disappeared into the dark tornado. The soldiers finally slowed down a bit. They couldn't locate Michael. Use the tracking scroll. Franklin, the leader of the elite death squad, ordered his men. One of them quickly took out a glowing silver parchment. A single rune radiated a bright silvery light. The soldier quickly tore it in half as the glowing rune appeared in the air above them. In the center of the tornado, Michael saw a thin yet bright layer of light appear on him. The soldiers immediately turned their heads toward Michael's direction as though they had seen him through the tornado. "You guys never learn." Franklin heard Ghost's words echo through the air. "But thanks for making me stronger." Franklin heard Ghost laugh. Franklin felt his neck hair stand up. Before he could react, hundreds of golden lightning bolts struck from above. He immediately took out another scroll, tore it, and teleported away. Those who managed to react in time escaped. The others just fell from the sky with one or more holes in their bodies. "Teleportation won't save you," said Ghost. "Raven maneuver," Franklin shouted. Michael saw the remaining soldiers flying in some kind of formation. They all raised their hands as their bodies multiply in number. These illusions were meant to disorient Michael. This time, Michael felt his neck hair stand up. He immediately dashed away, missing the golden spear to his heart by a few inches. The golden spear disappeared before Michael could take a closer look. Finally, Michael realized their plan. "An immortal killing weapon," Michael mumbled under his breath. He could tell their plan was to confuse Michael, hide the spear, and stab him with it when he least expected. The plan would have worked if Michael had not upgraded his environmental scanning. Chapter 7:18 Michael cracked his neck as the death squad surrounded him. The soldiers quickly cast various spells to protect themselves from him. They tore some scrolls to boost their strengths. Although Michael did not know what these scrolls would do, he could tell they were fully prepared to face him. Furthermore, the soldiers hid the golden spear. Michael scanned them all with his X-ray vision, yet he was unable to see who was holding the spear. It seemed to him they had used some powerful runes to hide the weapon from his sight. "Panther formation," Michael saw the fusion stage warrior shout. Following his order, the soldiers took out a yellowish pill and tossed it into their mouths. Michael was surprised by the energy radiation from the pill. They were all at least 96% pure pills, which meant they were concocted by a 6-star alchemist. Michael looked at the soldiers curiously to see what the pill could do. They soon quenched Michael's thirst for curiosity by dashing toward Michael faster than a typical core formation warrior's abilities. Granted, they were now here close to Michael's speed, but they were fast enough to make a soul refiner lose their sight. To Michael's surprise, a golden spear appeared in everyone's hand. Not that Michael had no way of finding out the real spear, he just wanted to try something else. Michael hovered in the air without moving an inch. He didn't even cast a spell. The soldiers didn't hesitate to strike Michael. Instead, they dashed at him with the ferocity of a beast and swung the golden spears left and right. The spear cut through Michael's clothes. Still, none of the spear strikes hurt his skin. After being tempered by the lightning strikes when he crossed the heavenly tribulation, his body became tough as metal. Normal weapons such as these golden spears stood no chance of hurting him, unlike the real golden spear. On the other hand, Gaia, Nightmare, and Azazel slaughtered the soldiers on the sea. The more people they killed, the more experience points Michael earned. Azazel especially turned into a killing machine. He didn't even use any spells but killed them with his bare hands. At that moment, Gaia landed on a frigate. Nightmare breathed frost around the ship, freezing the water to prevent the ship from moving. The strongest soldier on the deck was a core formation warrior. He was busy turning the rudder until Gaia sent an arrow straight through his head. His crew panicked. Several chakras appeared around Gaia as the remaining soldiers began to cast spells. However, Azazel landed directly on the center of the deck. He flapped his wings, sending a powerful gust of wind. Some soldiers were immediately knocked down by the wind's force. Azazel leaped into the air before landing right beside two soldiers. The soldiers panicked, and before they could react, Azazel grabbed their heads. Gaia saw their heads explode like watermelons. Until now, Gaia had never seen the demon side of Azazel. Truth be told, she almost forgot Azazel was a demon and not a butler. He mimicked Michael's lightning dash to wreak havoc on the deck. In a couple of seconds, Gaia saw several bloody veils of mist in the air. Eventually, the soldiers fell down without their heads. Nightmare's kills were less brutal than Azazel's. He just flew above the ship, breathing frost to freeze the soldiers. After he froze them completely, Nightmare landed on the ship with enough force to shatter the frozen soldiers. Gaia only focused on killing the strongest one on the ship. He let Nightmare and Azazel have fun. What's happening there? Gaia looked at the swirling tornado. He couldn't see anyone or anything except blue bolts of lightning. Deep inside the tornado, the Death Squad soldiers led by Franklin went all in. They cut Michael's clothes into pieces. Michael ripped off his top, revealing his chiseled muscles. He waited for the real immortal killing spear to strike him. "Star formation!" Franklin shouted. They couldn't even make Ghost bleed a drop of blood until now. This was the first time Franklin had fought a half-immortal. He read about how tough their bodies were, but it was still shocking to experience it in person. Whenever Franklin cut Ghost with the golden spear made of pure arch energy, he felt like he was cutting a metal block. He had a feeling Ghost was toying with them. He didn't even try to move or cast a spell. Instead, he hovered over the air, letting his soldiers attack him from all directions. Unlike Albert, Franklin didn't believe Hubert was still alive. If he was, the Thusians wouldn't be getting bombarded with mortar to this moment. The star formation was a code word to strike Ghost with the real immortal killing spear. Before the battle, the Death Squad had a meeting to finalize their attack plan with Edith. She wasn't a strategist, but Franklin and his men received many powerful scrolls from her. According to her, Ghost possessed an ability to see how strong his foes were despite the void effect. Hence, they decided to keep rotating the spear between the soldiers instead of Franklin keeping it. Since he was the strongest among them, Ghost would naturally target him, and if he had the spear, Ghost could kill and take the spear to himself. At that time, there would be nothing left to stop him. Franklin knew Ghost was underestimating them. That was the reason he was letting them attack him. Franklin decided to use his arrogance against him. As soon as the soldiers heard Franklin's order, they moved to form the star formation. Ghost was the center of their formation. The soldiers dashed forward with lightning speed. From the ground level, Gaia saw flashes of bright lights inside the dark tornado. When Franklin was a few meters away from Ghost, he flicked his wrist as the golden spear materialized in his hand. He did not wait for Ghost to turn around. 3 soldiers stabbed Ghost with their golden spears at the same time. This time, one of them was the real immortal killing weapon, and Franklin held it. As he and his men practiced, they transferred the rune to summon the real spear to Franklin at the very last second. The moment he received the rune, he summoned the spear and plunged it straight through Ghost's heart. Ghost coughed up blood as he grabbed the spear sticking out through his chest. Franklin twisted the spear. The images of his team getting struck by lightning bolts flashed across his eyes. He pushed the spear deeper. The soldiers finally stopped flying around Michael. They all felt relieved. Blood trickled down Ghost's mouth. "This is for all the Thusians you killed," Franklin growled. He pulled the spear and stabbed Ghost again. Although they fought wars from all sides continuously, they had never felt terrified until Ghost took over the cities they conquered in a couple of days. He wiped off the entire battalion led by powerful generals without breaking a sweat. For the first time, every soldier in Thusia felt the sprout of fear growing in their hearts. Seeing Ghost bleed and cough out blood was worth all the men and ships they had lost. Without Ghost, they could wipe off the resistance in a week or two. When Franklin stabbed Ghost for the 4th time, the soldiers felt relieved. But their relief was short-lived. Suddenly, a grin appeared on Ghost's face. He grabbed the spear and pulled it out of him. Franklin struggled to keep the spear in his hand as Ghost was too strong. "How did it feel?" asked Ghost. He spat out the blood. The devilish grin on his face sent chills running down their spines. Yet again, Michael spat a mouthful of blood. Despite the blood, his face showed no signs of pain. Franklin grabbed the spear with his two hands. Still, he couldn't overpower Ghost. "Back me up!" Franklin shouted as the soldiers rushed to his aid. Some grabbed the spear while some grabbed Michael's hands. At that moment, almost 30 soldiers struggled against Michael. "Shit!" Franklin growled. He felt he was slowly losing the spear to Ghost. Wind blast! Suddenly, a powerful gust of wind blasted everyone away from Ghost. They flung away like kites without an anchor in a storm. When Franklin regained his balance, he saw the golden spear in Ghost's hands. Franklin poured his energy into the summoning rune to call the spear back to him. The golden spear frantically trembled in Michael's hands until Franklin saw the rune on his palm shatter. Ghost finally moved his head upwards to take a look at Franklin. The wounds on his chest closed up in a few blinks of an eye. Michael raised the spear, swinging it playfully. How did it feel to have some hope? How did it feel when that hope shattered just like that? Michael snapped. "Your whole plan depended on this, right? What did you expect? You stab me with it, saying some bullshit, and I die like a villain?" Michael's chuckle echoed through the air. "Nightmare, it's time!" Franklin heard Michael. The very next moment, Michael dashed at Franklin. He appeared before him in a blink of an eye. Franklin immediately cast a spell as an ethereal bow and arrow appeared behind him. The gigantic bow and arrow lit the sky with its brightness. When Michael grabbed Franklin by his neck, the bow released the giant arrow. The arrow hit Michael. To Franklin's surprise, the arrow shattered into sparks of fire. He saw a translucent shield appear around Ghost for a moment before the arrow hit him. Franklin felt Ghost's grab around his neck tighten. He heard a thunderous roar. It was difficult for him to move his head. Still, he was able to see a dragon's shadow in the sky below them. While Franklin struggled under Michael's grab, Nightmare reached the bottom of the tornado. He flew around it, breathing frost onto the tornado. Gaia couldn't help raising her brows when she saw Nightmare freezing the entire tornado from down to the top. The temperature dropped by several degrees as Franklin watched his men getting froze to death without being able to do anything. "What are you?" Franklin barely managed to utter these words. "A god." Chapter 719, "Stab him with it, and the runes I engraved in it will take care of the rest." Franklin recalled Edith's words. He and his men were told that Ghost would die if he stabbed Ghost with the spear. On the contrary, nothing happened to Ghost. Even without Edith's runes, Franklin lived long enough to know a half-immortal could be killed with an immortal-killing weapon. This spear was not like other immortal-killing weapons. Instead, it was forged using several bones of a level 10 immortal and drenched in the immortal's blood for a year. He knew it should have killed Ghost. Michael lifted Franklin up. He was about to snap Franklin's neck when he sensed someone appears behind him. None of Franklin's men survived Nightmare's frost breath. The majority of them were stuck inside the frozen tornado, while a few were shot down from the sky by Gaia. It was Albert who decided to face Michael. Michael slowly turned around without letting go of Franklin. "Who are you?" Michael creased his brows. Not that Michael was ridiculing Albert, he seriously didn't know him. "Did you kill General Hubert?" asked Albert. Michael didn't respond to Albert. Instead, he pointed his finger at Albert. The golden lightning bolt crackled around Michael's fist before shooting toward Albert. Before Albert could react, a golden bolt of lightning penetrated his head. In the end, Albert couldn't keep his word to Hubert. Michael ended his life within a snap of time. Showing before Michael wearing the armor of Thusia was equal to killing themselves. Franklin saw the last member of the proud Mertz family falling from the sky. It made him wonder whether this was Thusia's end. "Yes," he said as though Ghost had read his mind. Franklin suddenly felt a sharp pain in his neck before everything around him turned dark. Finally, Michael let go of Franklin's body. Congratulations to the host for leveling up. The current stage is half-immortal level 8 thanks to Gaia, Azazel, and Nightmare slaughtering the soldiers. Michael was able to get to level 8 without much effort. After he killed Franklin, Gaia flew straight to Michael. Because Nightmare had frozen the tornado and the pirate ships stopped destroying the Thusian ships, the sea finally calmed down. Even from afar, Michael could smell the burning flesh and oil in the air. "That's a nice spear," Gaia said, looking at the spear. "Not just a spear. An immortal-killing spear." Michael told everything that happened, from the death squad appearance to Franklin stabbing him with the spear. The moment Gaia heard Michael let Franklin stab him, she squeezed Michael's shoulders. Her eyes glistened with anger and concern. "What the hell were you thinking?" Gaia almost slapped Michael. "Relax. If any immortal-killing weapon could kill me, Qin and the Mazeroth founders wouldn't have made god-killing arrows. But it's good to confirm I cannot be killed with these things." Michael looked at the golden spear in his hand. "Please don't be too haughty, host. Although these weapons cannot kill you, you will lose your cultivation if you get stabbed through your head. If you get beheaded, your skills and spells will be reset to level 1, and you will float as a soul until the system finds you a body. It might take a week, a month, or even decades." The system sounded like it was yelling at Michael. The system's response wasn't a big surprise to Michael. "So we have to prioritize finding the god-killing arrows and the armor pieces you told me about earlier," said Gaia. "I already found one piece." Michael used the system to find one of his armor pieces for 300,000 badass points. He didn't know how many pieces there were. However, if his past self left these armor in pieces, it meant he did that for a reason. Most probably, his past self did not want others or the Sky Hall to find the armor. He must have known his future self would use the system to find those armor pieces and assemble the armor. Michael wondered what made his past self reset an entire universe. He had few clues after hearing about Gaia's dream and his journey into various universes. "But if you pull any shit like this again, I will finish what the Sky Hall couldn't." "Of course you will, my dear Queenie." Michael wrapped his arm around her shoulder, pulling her closer to him. "My lord." Azazel flew directly to Michael. He bowed his head. His body was completely drenched with blood, and his eyes were with excitement. "You had a good time?" asked Michael. "I have to say, my lord, I'd love to experience this feeling again." "Keep your battle lust in check, Azazel. Don't let it go to your head," Gaia advised Azazel. After seeing how he slaughtered those soldiers, Gaia feared Azazel might become too addicted to killing people. Michael also noticed the glistening lust for blood in his eyes. He had seen the same battle lust in Spectre's eyes. But Michael did not say anything because he would take time to train all of his subordinates. He had ways to break one's lust for blood. "Azazel, head to the dark forest and get yourself cleaned up. I want you to keep a close eye on all our people. I have a feeling the Thusians will hit back harder after this." "As you wish, my lord." Azazel bowed toward Michael and Gaia before vanishing into thin air. Nightmare came flying to Michael as Gaia and Michael leaped onto his back. Several ships carrying King Gunnar and King Baldur's army finally reached the docks. Big Bertha did not come closer to the Golden Port but teleported back to the southern continent using Elidar's teleportation array. Now that Michael's naval army had wiped off almost 2/3 of the Thusian army, he let the army deal to occupy the Golden Port. Michael didn't bother to check on the army. Instead, he returned to King Gunnar's castle. Surprisingly, King Gunnar was there to welcome Michael, Gaia, and Nightmare with Yagner, General Bryce, and Prince Devarius. Their faces were brimming with delight. The three of them watched the Thusians getting destroyed by Ghost's naval army while they were inside the Thusian warehouse. Although they were terrified by the power of Ghost's naval army, they were glad he was against Thusia. Moreover, they robbed the warehouse clean. They knew that would certainly hurt the Thusians in their war. While walking toward them, Michael willed the system to equip a new set of clothes. "Master Ghost, how's the war going? We saw your naval army was destroying the Thusians left and right." General Bryce grinned from ear to ear. "It's over. We won. The Golden Port is yours." The smiles on their faces froze. "You should quickly visit there and solidify the defenses. We don't want the Thusians to hit back. Do we?" said Michael. "Plus, your men need you until I finish some things up here," said Gaia. "I assume you did your job well?" Yagner nodded. "Good. We can discuss it later. Now I have something else to do. Please excuse me. Of course, Kingener said. Leaving them behind, Michael headed toward his room. What are we doing? Asked Nightmare. He jumped onto the bed. Michael quickly closed the door and the curtains. Afterward, Michael willed the system to teleport them to the pocket dimension in the dark forest. Since the pocket dimension wasn't affected by winter, they felt warm and cozy. However, Michael was not in the mood to take a break. Instead, he took out the bottle filled with the royal dragon's blood. System, I have the royal dragon blood. So it's time to make Nightmare a royal dragon. It would cost the host 50,000 badass points. I know. Now tell me, what's the procedure? Asked Michael. Immediately, his badass points were reduced by 50,000. Please be advised the process of changing Nightmare's body from the molecular level will take up to a week. During this time, Nightmare will be unconscious. Noted. Michael nodded. You just need to inject the blood into Nightmare and let the system take care of the rest. An 8-inch syringe materialized in Michael's hand. Just the sight of the needle made Nightmare hold Gaia's neck tightly. For some reason, he feared the needle. What do you plan to do with that? Asked Gaia. When Michael filled the syringe with the royal dragon's blood, her question was answered. Nightmare, ID suggest closing your eyes? Nightmare cowered behind Gaia's head, hearing Michael. Oh, come on. You're not going to inject that thing into him. Gaia stopped Michael. Don't spoil him. He's a dragon. He won't even feel it. Michael rolled his eyes. Figure out another way. Gaia took a step back. She was not willing to let Michael stab Nightmare with that giant needle. Nightmare. Michael called out Nightmare. His voice was stern as Nightmare slowly peeked his head through Gaia's hair. Don't you want to be stronger? This injection can make you an unstoppable royal dragon. Nightmare's eyes sparkled. He slowly climbed on top of Gaia's head and stood on his 2 legs. What's wrong with being a forest dragon? We just killed a royal dragon. Bloodline means shit when you don't have power and battle experience. Gaia protested. Although she was right as usual, Michael wanted Nightmare to be a royal dragon. He didn't want Nightmare to feel inferior to any dragon in this world. It's okay. Nightmare nudged Gaia's head with his face. He then leaped onto Ghost's hand and closed his eyes tight. Shoo! Surprisingly, Gaia hissed, closing her eyes as though Michael was sticking the needle into her neck. Michael slowly injected the royal dragon's blood into Nightmare. The more he injected the blood, the hotter Nightmare's skin felt. He placed Nightmare under the apple tree. You can open your eyes now, Michael said to Gaia. Chapter 720. The next day after the Golden Port battle, a group of men was riding their horses through the frozen paddy fields. There were 20 to 30 wooden houses covered in snow. The women and men in the village stepped out of their warm homes to start their day. From the outside, the village looked no different than any other farming village. But this village was something more. It was a place where the Northgard rebels were hiding. General Zachary, the winter seemed to have hit this village pretty hard. Don't you think so? The man who led the group asked General Zachary. Except for the leader, the others were adorned with leather armor with metal plating to protect their chests and shoulders. 6 of the 7 of them were soul refining stage warriors. The leader was at the fusion stage level 10. He was none other than General Booth. Now, after being offered the Duchy of Valeria, he was called Duke Booth by the Thusians. Duke Booth halted riding his white-maned horse and stared at the village in the distance. I think we should warm them up. Booth turned his gaze toward Zachary. His eyes glistened with killing intent. General Zachary nodded. Wasting no time, General Zachary ascended to the air. He flew toward the village. Bring me the village leader and 5 others, Booth said to another soul-refining stage general. Burn the rest, Booth said. He was nonchalant. To him, burning this village was no different than having breakfast. He lost count of how many villages he burnt down and how many people he had killed. The villagers didn't notice Zachary hovering in the sky above them. The snowfall made their vision blurry. Their peaceful day took a turn for the worst when a fiery boulder hit the center of the village. The boulder hit the village with enough force to decimate the surrounding homes. Pieces of the fiery boulder scattered out, lighting the village like a Christmas tree. Some people screamed in shock, and some screamed in pain. General Austin was ordered to capture the village elder and 5 others. "I hope the old man is still in one piece," General Austin said, looking at the fire engulfing the entire village. He headed for the only 2-story building in the village. If the village elder was somewhere, it would be this lavish home. Meanwhile, General Zachary rained down fire from above. General Austin flew through the falling fiery boulders to the village elder's home. General Booth watched the village burn with a calm face. "Zachary is definitely having fun with his new spell," Booth chuckled. He gifted the spell to Zachary for capturing Prince Devarius. People would literally kill to have such a powerful epic-class spell. The destruction this spell brought could be compared to a legendary-class spell. The boulders crushed the villagers and burnt their skin off. To this moment, the villagers had no idea why they were being slaughtered. Suddenly, 5 men shot toward the sky from the village. They wore silver robes and hoods to cover their heads. Booth and his general were familiar with the robes. Their robes once represented the Northgard royal family, and now, they belonged to the rebels led by Prince Devarius. Booth's mission was simple. He wanted to burn down some villages and take a few hostage. Unfortunately, he decided to burn down this village because the rebels chose this place to hide. General Zachary didn't even flinch when he saw the rebels. "It's because of you those villagers are dying right now," Zachary said with a devilish grin on his face. Fury and rage glistened under the rebels' hoods. The Thusians had invaded their homeland, pillaged their farms, feasted on their women, and burnt down villages. Simply put, the Thusians turned a once peaceful kingdom into a war zone. "They did nothing to you, bastard." One of the rebels couldn't keep his rage contained. He dashed at Zachary with his sword raised. The sword radiated a violet light. Hand of Justice. Zachary cast a spell as a fist made of sparkling silver energy materialized above the rebel. The rebel swung his sword left and right, trying to cut the fist. However, the power gap between a core formation warrior and a soul-refining stage warrior with cosmic energy coursing through his body was gigantic. The fist opened up, grabbed the rebel, and squeezed him until he turned into a bloody paste. Before the other rebels could retaliate, Zachary raised his hand as several boulders soared down the sky and landed right on top of the rebels. The fire enveloping the boulders burnt down the rebels. They couldn't even defend themselves against Zachary. Booth watched the rebels' burnt bodies falling down from the sky with an amused smile. Booth didn't give a damn about the rebels. Otherwise, he would have ordered his men to capture them. No, Booth had bigger plans for the villagers. After killing the rebels, Zachary cast the meteor spell once again. Not because he was required to, but because he liked casting his new spell. In a few minutes, the village was completely destroyed. Furthermore, the spells turned the flat village into a massive crater. The village elder's house finally crumbled down to pieces. Luckily, Austin managed to grab the elder and 5 others in a bubble before Zachary destroyed the house. Despite the winter, the air became hotter. It took a few moments for the silence to take over the village. Except for the sound of crackling wood, one could hear nothing. When Zachary and Austin returned to Booth, he saw the unconscious bodies of the village elder and 5 others. "Send them to my castle." Booth waved his hand casually. Zachary nodded as he took out a golden scroll. When he tore the scroll, a bright light enveloped the villagers. The light disappeared as soon as it appeared with the villagers. "Where to your grace?" asked Zachary. "Isn't there another village nearby?" asked Booth. His men bobbed their heads up and down. "Then let's go there." The next day after Booth's visit to Northgard, Booth was ordered to meet someone from the Guardian Guild. Booth stood before the mirror, neatly combing his hair and mustache. Usually, Booth preferred to be in armor and avoid fancy robes. But today was an exception. Apparently, the man he was about to meet was a major financial backer of the Guardian Guild. So Princess Victoria ordered him to be on his best behavior. "Why can't Edith meet with this old pig?" Booth snickered. "Your Grace, Lord Oswald is waiting for you in the guest room." Booth heard his maid sound gentle and sweet as always. "I'll be there in a minute," said Booth. He adjusted his robes one last time and walked out of the room. By the time he reached the guest room, he saw a short man with no hair whatsoever on his head munching on the apples waiting for him. The man's belly was big enough to make Booth doubt whether he had swallowed a pig whole. "Duke Booth!" The man grinned from ear to ear. Bits of pieces of apple flew out of his mouth. He was simply disgusting in Booth's eyes. Nonetheless, he had to show this man some respect in order to get his help. "Lord Oswald, I hope you had a pleasant trip." Booth let out a phony smile. "It was wonderful," Lord Oswald clapped. "I honestly didn't think Princess Victoria would personally reach out to me and ask me to meet you. This must be pretty important given the unfortunate circumstances," said Oswald. "It's not unfortunate, just a few bumps on the road. With your help, we can sort it out in no time," said Booth. "My help? I am not sure what I can do to help you in this war, Duke Booth." Oswald scratched his bald head. Booth was not stupid to believe Oswald. He knew very well the man was trying to play hardball. "I heard Lord Oswald has taken a liking to a piece of land in Valeria. Is there any truth to what I heard?" asked Booth. People like Oswald had no chance of reaching higher cultivation stages. Hence, they loved wealth, land, and women more than they loved cultivation resources. Although Oswald had enough wealth to feed at least 5 generations, he lusted for more wealth and land. Victoria knew this. Her spies had been following Oswald for at least 6 months now. "I did like the land of Duke Booth, but I heard it belonged to Queen Valeria's family," Oswald sighed. "I can literally imagine a 5-acre vineyard, the smell of ripe grapes and the sweet taste of high-quality wine." Booth leaned forward. "What if I tell you I can get you the land and help you build the vineyard of your dream?" Oswald pretended to be surprised. But inside, he knew he could get his hands on the land. Thanks to Ghost, the Thusians had no choice but to come to him. "In exchange for?" Oswald dragged his words. "In exchange for the Guardian Guild to send their rogue immortals to deal with Ghost," said Booth. "That's a pretty big ask for a piece of land, Duke Booth." "It's not my decision but the board's decision," General Booth smiled. "We both know your capabilities to sway them to your side, Lord Oswald. Also, it's not only about the land, it's power and respect. Let's just assume I can help you. There are 7 others on the board. Convincing them to vote to send an immortal to Thusia to help you win a war that you started first is nothing but impossible." Oswald shook his head. "You've made the impossible possible by rewriting the rules, Lord Oswald. Don't you think the land would go nice with the princess?" Oswald was pleasantly surprised. "What do you mean by that, Duke Booth?" Oswald asked. His jaw almost dropped down. "I mean, once you sway the board to send an immortal to put an end to Ghost, His Majesty would be happy to offer Princess Victoria's hands to your son in marriage. I am pretty sure that's worth more than the votes of your fellow board members." "Are you joking with me right now, Duke Booth?" asked Oswald. Booth's smile disappeared from his face. "Do I look like I am joking, Lord Oswald?" Chapter 721. A few hours later, Edith arrived at Booth's castle. The moment Edith entered the guest room, she saw Booth waiting for her with his men. Judging by the dark lines on his face, she could tell the negotiation with Oswald did not go as Booth liked. "Miss Edith." Booth greeted her with a light bow. "How did it go?" asked Edith. "I have good and bad news. The good news is that Gross Pig agreed to help us. The bad news is the Guardian will only send a half-immortal off the books," said Booth. "They are afraid of the effects of 2 immortals battling it out." Edith joined Booth and his men at the table. "I expected this. But if my plan worked, the Guardians would be forced to send all their immortals after Ghost. Give me the reports of the Golden Port battle." Booth grabbed a scroll and slid it toward Edith. She opened it up to read everything that had transpired in the Golden Port. Victoria's spies wrote everything that happened in the Golden Port from start to finish. "General Franklin finished his mission," said Edith. Booth was confused by her words. As far as he read the report, Ghost massacred the Death Squad. Furthermore, they managed to lose the immortal killing weapon given to Franklin by Princess Victoria. That spear was more valuable than Franklin's life. So even if Franklin was alive, Booth would have killed him just for losing the spear. Unless his mission was to lose the spear and die, I don't see how his mission was a success. General Zachary rolled his eyes. That was his mission. Everyone, including Booth, was startled by her answer. Is there something you need to share with the group, Miss Edith? Booth's voice became cold. As the general of the Thusian army, Booth did not like secret plans behind his back. Judging by the look in Edith's eyes, Booth could tell she did plan something behind his back. I placed a special rune on the spear. Special rune? Booth tilted his head. Do you remember that the Dark Lord chased Ghost to the Royal Land Holy Church and almost killed him? Booth and his men nodded. Thanks to the talented engineers and runemasters in Wuxia, we have managed to create a rune that would mimic the Dark Lord's energy signature. Seeing the bewildered faces of the generals, Edith sighed. She took a moment to simplify things for them to understand. Just think that the rune will make Ghost look like the Dark Lord, said Edith. Truth be told, even Edith wasn't clear about the effects of the rune. Unlike she told Booth and her men, neither she nor the Thusians created the rune. Instead, she found the scroll instructing her how to create the rune to stop Ghost in her room. To this moment, she had no idea who left the rune or how they managed to get into her room in Thusian Castle, one of the most protected places in the world. The circumstances forced Edith to create the rune instead of finding out who had left it in her room. So why aren't we not activating the rune? If what you said about the rune was true, we don't need Oswald, said Booth. We need 4 more days for the rune to stay with Ghost. According to this report, he had taken the spear with him. Let him keep that. We just need 4 more days, said Edith. After meeting Booth, Edith returned to her room in Thusian Castle. To her shock, Layla was standing inside her room with an ancient parchment in her hand. Layla's eyes were both filled with anger and concern. What is this? Layla raised the parchment with several runes and instructions written on it. It's nothing. Edith rushed forward and snatched the parchment from Layla. And what the hell are you doing in my room? Isn't it enough for you to stay in the castle? Now you need to stay in my room? Edith snarled. You created something you shouldn't have. You are making things worse for everyone, Edith. Layla's voice was colder than usual. Although she was not a runemaster, she knew enough to know Edith had created something to turn Ghost into the Dark Lord in front of the world. Layla didn't come here to protect only Edith but also Ghost. Seeing Edith stoop to such lengths to save Wuxia and the royal family hurt Layla. At least I am doing something. Edith's eyes turned red in anger. You're trying to frame Ghost for being the Dark Lord. He doesn't deserve that. Don't you think Wuxia has taken enough from him? You know everything they did to him. Why are you still siding with them? Because Victoria is my friend. Edith stomped the floor. And I am your sister. Layla raised her voice. Do not do this, Edith. If you do this, the Thusians will keep hurting innocent people. Open your eyes, Layla. We are at war and I picked my side. If I don't stop Ghost, he will kill Victoria and her family. I won't let that happen as long as I am alive. This is not the way to stop him. Listen to yourself. This is not you. Layla grabbed Edith's shoulder and shook her. Don't talk to me like you know me, Layla. Layla was stunned by Edith's words for a few moments. The anger in Edith's eyes shocked Layla to the core. You care about Ghost more than you ever cared about your own family? Edith? Layla gritted her teeth. The temperature in the room suddenly dropped by several degrees. What? You want to kill me? Edith growled. You have never ever given a damn about your family. Layla slapped Edith with enough force to make Edith stumble backward and fall down. Blood trickled down from the corner of Edith's mouth. There she is. That's the Layla Alden I know. That's the Layla Alden our father knew. That's the Layla Alden our Alden family knew before they killed our father because of what you did. Edith's eyes became watery. Don't put that on me. Father had no right to give his word to someone else about marrying me. It wasn't his decision to make. He did nothing wrong as a father. You could have rejected the marriage in so many ways. But no, you shamed father in front of all Gondolin. Tears rolled out of Edith's eyes. You hated him for marrying my mother, and you used his one downfall to shame him. Because of what you did, they killed our father. Edith's shout turned into a powerful wave. The flower vases in the room shattered as a result. Except for Layla, Edith's furious roar moved everything in the room. "I killed them all," Layla growled. She couldn't control her body from trembling in anger. Until now, she didn't know Edith was blaming her for what happened to Norbert Alden. However, her hatred was justified. After all, Edith didn't know what really happened. If Layla was in Edith's place, she would hate her too. The only reason why Layla didn't tell Edith was the truth would destroy the image of Norbert in Edith's heart. Layla didn't want to sully the memory of Norbert. Did that bring father back? Edith picked herself from the floor. Her cheek still had Layla's handprint on it. "You are the reason why father was killed. But you didn't care to stick around. I watched my mother cry every day. I watched our family decline. I lived in the mess you left behind. But where were you? You were living your life on your own island like a queen. You have no idea what really happened. Just like you have no idea what's happening around you now," said Layla. Only a few really knew what really happened between Layla and her father. Not even Edith's mother knew what he really did and why Layla left her family, leaving everyone behind. "Say what you want. I picked my side. Even if Victoria was in the wrong, I wouldn't leave her side. Do you know why? Because she was there for our family and me when you weren't. I might be naive, stupid, and all other things, but I am not ungrateful. Did you bother to think about the people around Ghost? What would happen to them after you frame him? I am sick of you caring for Ghost. Who is he to you?" Edith raised her voice. She grabbed Layla. "Who is he to you? Why are you trying to save him so much?" Edith shook Layla as he continuously questioned Layla about the relationship between her and Ghost. Layla clenched her fist. "He is the father of my child." The moment these words escaped Layla's mouth, Edith's body tensed. She couldn't believe what she had just heard. Silence fell over the room. "What?" Finally, Edith let go of Layla as tears rolled out of her eyes. Layla kept this a secret long enough. She was already hurt by Edith, so when she kept questioning her about Ghost, Layla couldn't control herself. Her legs gave up as Layla collapsed to the ground. "Layla, what are you talking about?" Although Edith was furious at Layla, when she saw the tears in her eyes, Edith couldn't stay mad at Layla. Despite all the hatred and anger, Edith loved Layla. That was the truth. "You have a child?" asked Edith. She sat beside Layla and wrapped her hands around Layla. "A spirit child," Layla mumbled. It took Edith a few moments to let her words sink into her head. "Why didn't you tell me about this?" asked Edith. Layla sobbed instead of responding to Edith. "It's okay. You don't have to carry the burden yourself. I am here. Please, get it out of your chest. Don't keep it bottled. I know what it would do to a person. You are always smarter than me. Tell me what happened, Layla." Edith wiped off the tears rolling out of Layla's eyes. Eventually, Layla gave up and began to share everything that happened between her and Ghost with Edith. But unknown to them, someone else was outside their room, listening to Layla's story. "This can change everything," the figure standing outside mumbled. Chapter 722. A few hours after Edith and Layla argued in Edith's room, Zachary rushed to the Duchy of Valeria. He almost knocked down the guards on his way to Booth's room. "General Booth's gonna love this," Zachary mumbled. "Your Grace." Zachary knocked on Booth's door. Seeing no response coming from Booth, Zachary knocked once again. "Your Grace, it's Zachary," said Zachary. "Come in." Finally, Zachary heard Booth's voice. He didn't even wait for a second as he pushed open the door. Seeing the brightened face of Zachary, Booth tossed the scroll in his hand away. He leaned back in his chair. "What is it?" asked Booth. "Your Grace, you're not going to believe what I just heard." "Enlighten me," said Booth. "Layla Alden and Ghost have a child." The moment Booth heard Zachary, his eyes went wide. Soon, Zachary told Booth everything from Edith's argument with Layla to the existence of the spirit child. Booth couldn't believe what he heard from Zachary. When he sent Zachary to bring Edith to him, he didn't expect Zachary would bring shocking news such as this. "This could change the tide of this war," Zachary said with a devilish grin. Booth couldn't remain seated anymore. He stood up, went to the window and popped his fingers, thinking about what to do with the news Zachary brought. His Majesty is in seclusion. We cannot wait for his orders. What about Her Royal Highness? Asked Zachary. Booth shook his head. She has a soft spot for Edith. If we tell her about this, she might not use it as we should, said Booth. Knowing their friendship, Booth was certain that Victoria would not let them touch Layla's child. Victoria was indeed ruthless, but not enough to kidnap a child. It was his job to make decisions that no one else had the guts to make. Then you have to give us an order, Your Grace, said Zachary. For a few moments, Booth formed a plan in his mind. Booth slowly turned his gaze away from the city before him to Zachary. Go to the Rainbow Islands, survey the place and kidnap the child. Anyone else would have been stunned by Booth's order but not Zachary. In fact, he expected a bold decision like this from Booth. Making ruthless and bold decisions such as this made Booth the best general Wuxia had ever seen. Without him, Wuxia wouldn't have won the wars and become a terrifying superpower in Azair. Zachary and the others had undying faith in Booth and were willing to do anything Booth ordered. What about the Aldens? They won't take kindly to kidnapping their blood. If Edith's plan worked, the guild would take care of Ghost, and we can return the child without revealing anything. But if her plan didn't work, then we need this child to stop Ghost. This child is our trump card, said Booth. Can I take General Austin with me, Your Grace? Asked Zachary. Yes, but do not fail me, and do not get caught. We must keep this under wrap and only use this child if Edith's plan fails, said Booth. Roger that, Your Grace. After Zachary left the room, a devilish grin emerged on Booth's face. This time, I will cut your head and make sure you stay dead. Abras, Booth grinned. Until Princess Victoria told him about Ghost, he thought he killed Abras. To be honest, Booth didn't even remember Abras. If he had known Abras would not only survive but also become a half-immortal, he would have severed Abras' head. It was a mistake Booth regretted to this moment. However, Zachary brought a solution to fix all the mess caused by Ghost. You might be a half-immortal, but now I know you're also a father. TSK, you shouldn't have entered into this war with a child, my dear boy. You're gonna wish you stayed away from Wuxia. Booth laughed. While Zachary and Austin were heading toward the Rainbow Islands, Queen Valeria summoned Victoria to her room. The room was elegantly arranged. The fireplace in the corner radiated a gentle warmth. Valeria personally decorated the room to her preference. Several portraits of her family riddled the walls. The large queen-size bed was located near the fireplace. The moment Victoria entered the room, she was welcomed by a gentle motherly embrace from Valeria. You must be tired. Come sit here with me. Valeria dragged Victoria to the comfy sofa set. She forced Victoria to sit beside her. Did you have your breakfast? Asked Valeria. We lost the Golden Port, Mother. I think breakfast can wait, said Victoria. They have won a battle, yes, but we are fighting a war. A single battle won't decide the result. Valeria gently placed her hand on Victoria's shoulder. Just a single glance was enough for Valeria to know how much pressure Victoria was under. The kingdom of Wuxia was prepared to fight armies but not a half-immortal. They never expected someone like Ghost would wage war against them. But despite losing the cities and battles, Valeria remained calm. This is just a setback. I am sure your father will fix the situation as he always does, said Valeria. I have something to lighten your mood. Valeria stood up. She went outside the room for a moment and returned carrying a box. Mother, give me that. Victoria rose from her chair to take the wooden box from Valeria. I am at the soul refining stage, Victoria. I think I can handle a box, Valeria chuckled. She placed the box on the table before Victoria. Open it, said Valeria. Victoria glanced between her mother and the box for a moment. Judging by the size of the box, Victoria could tell it contained something big and heavy. She slowly opened the box. To her surprise, it was a set of armor specially forged for her by the best blacksmith in Wuxia. The silver armor radiated powerful energy. Countless runes glowed under the radiant light of the flames. This set of armor had a flat-top helm with half a face guard shaped like the eyes of an angel. Two tall, wing-like ornament pieces attached to the forehead area and the backside. The shoulders were oval, short, and quite large. They were decorated with rows of colored crystals and gems. The upper arms were protected by pointed, fully covering rear braces which sat well under the shoulder plates. The lower arms were covered by vambraces which had several huge, sharp spikes on the outer sides. Victoria lifted the armor from the box. She was surprised by the lightness of the armor. Although the armor was forged using the strongest metals, it was lighter than one would expect. The breastplate was made from one large piece of metal. It covered everything from the neck down and ended at the thighs. The upper legs were covered by squared, fully covering cuisses, while the lower legs were protected by greaves which had several layers of curved metal attached to the outer sides, forming a wing-like pattern. "Do you like it?" asked Valeria. As she expected, Victoria smiled. "I love it. Now go put it on. I want to see how my baby girl looks in her battle armor." "Now?" Victoria was taken aback by surprise. She creased her brows as Valeria pinched her cheek. "Yes, I am going to head outside for a moment, and when I come back, you better be wearing this." Valeria didn't bother to wait for Victoria's answer. Instead, she walked out of the room. Having no choice, Victoria began to unbuckle her current robes. Almost 30 minutes later, Valeria entered the room. When she saw Victoria in the armor, her eyes went wide. In her eyes, Victoria looked like the goddess of war herself. Even Valeria felt a sliver of fear in her heart seeing Victoria in the battle armor. "Mother!" Victoria's voice snapped Valeria out of her shock. "Have you tried putting your cosmic energy into the armor?" asked Valeria. Victoria shook her head before pouring a sliver of cosmic energy into the armor. The runes engraved into the armor made it feel like a part of her body. When she used her cosmic energy, the runes glowed. She felt her strength increasing exponentially. With a flick of her wrist, Valeria activated the teleportation array in her room. In a blink of an eye, they were teleported from Valeria's cozy room to a training area with countless dummies in place. "Go crazy," said Valeria. Seeing the wooden dummies in place, Victoria wanted to vent her suppressed anger onto them. She dashed at the dummies with speed beyond any mortals. The runes amplified the power of her spells. When she got close to the dummy, she didn't cast a spell or use her sword to cut it down. Instead, she just punched the dummy with her bare fist. The force behind her punch made the dummy shatter into pieces. Victoria did not stop as she dashed toward another one. Even though the dummies looked weak and fragile, each of them was as strong as a soul-refining stage level 1 cultivator. But they never stood a chance against Victoria. Her armor and the cosmic energy made her stronger than any fusion stage cultivator. Since she had an immortal killing weapon, she could even fight a half-immortal. As seconds passed by, Victoria became faster and more ferocious. These dummies served as an outlet for her anger. She imagined these dummies as ghosts and destroyed them to pieces. After a few minutes, the training ground was littered with broken wooden dummies. "That's enough, honey," Valeria raised her voice. Only then did Victoria manage to control her battle lust. When Victoria returned to Valeria, she looked Victoria in the eyes. "Anger can be a great weapon, if you can control it," said Valeria. "Your enemies will use your anger against you. Do not let them. The greatest weapon you have is in here." Valeria touched Victoria's head. Victoria listened to her mother's wisdom without uttering a word. Afterward, she took a long walk with her mother to calm her mind and soul. Valeria was happy to accompany her daughter and share her wisdom. Chapter 723. Zachary and Austin left for the Rainbow Islands with one goal: to take Layla's child with them. They completely covered their bodies with dark robes to hide their identities. Using a teleportation portal, they managed to reach the outskirts of the Rainbow Island when the sun was setting down on the horizon. The two of them hovered in the air, staring at the island. Until now, no one entered the Rainbow Islands with ill intentions. First, Layla didn't have any enemies. She was a pretty private, secluded person. Second, no one wanted to piss off a powerful fusion stage cultivator like Layla Alden. Third, except for the specialty that Layla was living on the island, there was nothing special about the island. It was just a fishing island with peaceful fishermen living on it. "How do we do this?" asked Austin. "I think stealth is the best option. Let's wait for nightfall and we strike," said Zachary. "Meanwhile, it's better if we do some recon." Austin nodded. The two of them slowly flew toward the island. Since the people living on the island were just simple fishermen, they didn't sense Austin and Zachary. They flew through the canopy and used the forest to hide. The two of them made their way toward the mountain peak where Layla Alden lived. Instead of flying, they chose to move towards it fastly. "According to my guys, she has 2 disciples on this island," said Austin. "Johanna and Narita, 2 orphans, picked up from the streets and raised by Layla." "How strong are they?" asked Zachary. "Before the void effect, they were seen at soul refining stage level 3, said Austin. "It's safe to assume they are a couple of levels higher now." Austin nodded. The forest was deadly silent. Except for the sound of crickets and the twigs breaking under Austin and Zachary's footsteps, they heard nothing. "Can you believe Ghost banged Layla? Lucky bastard," Austin exclaimed. "He didn't. He soul walked her. They must have been stuck in some weird situation to go for that," said Zachary. The two discussed Ghost and Layla while moving through the forest. "What's the plan if anyone finds us? Are we allowed to kill them or just knock them out?" asked Austin. "No killing. We don't want any of this to come biting our asses later." Eventually, the two of them reached the base of the mountain. Since it was night, there was no one in the area to see them. All the inhabitants of the island went to sleep. Austin and Zachary slowly ascended toward the mountain's top. They saw a cave opening at the top leading into the mountain where Layla lived. To their surprise, the moment they climbed to the top of the mountain, they saw 2 young girls at the cave entrance with Venas. Austin and Zachary suppressed their auras. Therefore, they were bewildered. They had no idea how the 2 girls sensed them. "You have a minute to leave this place," Johanna growled. "Oh shit," Austin mumbled under his breath. Since they got caught, they had no choice but to fight them. Booth would forgive them if they took the child. Otherwise, he would flay them alive just because they got caught by the girls. "If you take a walk for a minute, no one will get hurt," said Zachary. Seeing no response coming from the 2 girls, Zachary sighed. "I thought so." Zachary was about to cast a spell when the 2 girls played a string of their Venas. A powerful gust of wind knocked them into the air. It took Zachary and Austin a few minutes to balance themselves in the air. By playing a single string, the girls knocked them out. The 2 generals were startled by their sheer power. However, they weren't afraid of the 2 girls. Instead, battle lust glistened in their eyes. Zachary was tempted to use the meteor spells. However, he controlled himself, imagining the destruction it would cause. He wanted to take the child alive. If he used the meteor spell, that might become a problem. Zachary and Austin dashed toward Johanna and Narita. The 2 girls played a powerful melody as a heat wave pushed Zachary and Austin backward. King's Shield. Zachary and Austin cast a defense shield. A bright light shot out of Zachary and Austin, forming an energy shield in the shape of a crown. The energy crown surrounded them. With the shield around them, Austin and Zach slowly pushed forward. On the other hand, Johanna and Narita ascended into the air with their Venas. They continued to play the Venas. Each time they struck a chord, a powerful wave of energy hit the shield around Zachary and Austin. When the shield and the wave clashed, the shield formed several cracks. The powerful melody reverberated through the air, waking the animals in the forest. Even the snowfall seemed to have been stopped by the melody. While Zachary was keeping the shield up, Austin summoned his silver spear. He threw the spear through the energy waves produced by the 2 girls. As soon as the spear left his hand, another one materialized in his hand. The spear he threw soared through the air and penetrated the ground several inches away from Johanna. Suddenly, the spear exploded, temporarily stunning the 2 girls. They did not expect the spear to explode. Before the 2 girls could retaliate, Austin darted forward like an arrow with the spear in his hand. He quickly closed the gap between him and the girls. As soon as he got close to them, the girls lost their advantage. Austin swung his spear left and right. Ah! The spear cut Johanna's hand. He wanted to stab the girl through her heart, and he almost did when Narita struck a chord to push him back. Johanna gritted her teeth and struck the string as another powerful wave blasted Austin away. The two girls had the chance to take the battle to a different area. However, they always looked over their shoulder at the cave opening as though they had something to protect. Zachary smiled. Judging by their look, it was obvious the spirit child was inside. Meanwhile, Austin rapidly threw the spear toward them and made them explode. This time, the girls quickly formed golden shields around them. Every time a spear exploded, it created a crack in their shields. Zachary and Austin put the two girls in defense as they moved closer and closer to the cave's mouth. Star fire! Zachary raised his arms, casting a spell. The cosmic energy shot out of his body, forming a giant star above them. The star fired several arrows engulfed in fire at the girls. These arrows penetrated their shields as more and more cracks formed in the shield. Johanna began to play the veena faster. The gentle melody put the animals in the forest back to sleep. Their music created a ripple in the sky. Soon, Zachary and Austin felt being pulled up into the sky. They resisted the pull by using cosmic energy. A thin veil of violent energy enveloped their bodies. Austin gritted his teeth. He poured his cosmic energy into the spear. As a result, the spear trembled uncontrollably. Arg! Austin roared, raising his spear in the air. Johanna and Narita saw multiple spears appear around Austin. They all slowly turned their pointy ends at them. In a blink of an eye, all the spears shot toward them. The golden shield withstood a couple of spears, but when the fifth one hit the shield, it shattered into millions of tiny specks of golden light. The backlash sent Narita and Johanna stumbling back. This time, Zachary did not allow them to fight back. He dashed forward, conjuring a sword made of red-hot flames. Zachary left a fiery trail behind. Austin immediately dashed away from Zachary's path, but not before he dipped his spear in flames radiating from the sword. He threw the flaming spear. The spear exploded as countless flaming pieces hit Narita and Johanna. Narita and Johanna almost lost their grip around the Venas. The specks of fire burned through their clothes and skin. They couldn't even scream as Zachary swung his fiery sword left and right. These flames were not just typical flames, but flames created by cosmic energy. Each of Zachary's swings was precise and deadly. He cut the Venas in half like a hot knife through butter. A light bright enough to make all of them shut their eyes tight appeared from the two Venas. Immediately, Narita and Johanna coughed up blood. When the light disappeared, they fell down to the ground. Austin did not spare them as he landed on Narita's back and stomped her. "Hey!" Zachary yelled. "I am just knocking her out." Austin grinned devilishly. "Bastard!" Johanna screamed, only to get a boot to her face. Austin enjoyed beating up the two girls. Narita tried to crawl toward the cave mouth to stop the two, but everything turned darker when Zachary kicked her head. She was knocked out cold. Austin turned around to see the two girls. He was tempted to throw them down from the mountain. "We are not killing them," Zachary growled. "Sisters." Suddenly, they heard a child's voice resonate in the cave. The voice was sweet and gentle yet domineering at the same time. Zachary felt a strange power in the voice. The voice snuffed out the flaming sword in an instant. A sliver of fear emerged in his heart for some reason. He slowly stepped into the dark cave, followed by Austin. The two of them tried not to make any sound. "Where are you?" The child's playful voice echoed through the cave. "Is it only me, or this kid is kind of freaky?" asked Austin. Just like Zachary, Austin too felt a strange power in the child's voice. The closer they got to the end of the cave, the louder footsteps sounded. The child's chuckle kept echoing through the cave. The two of them never thought a chuckle would freak them out. Ignoring the fear in their hearts, they kept walking deeper into the cave. Taking the child with them might put an end to Ghost's terrorizing reign. Compared to Edith's plan, Zachary liked threatening Ghost with his child more. Chapter 724. Michael was busy dealing with the aftermath of the Golden Port battle. At that Northgard, he was in a room filled with sacks of grain, artifacts, food, crates of potions and pills and gold coins. Everything in front of him was his share of the Golden Port warehouse. Michael kept everything in the dark forest. "My lord!" Azazel appeared behind Michael. "What is it?" asked Michael without even turning around. His mind was occupied with future plans. "Lady Alden has told Edith about you and her." Azazel's words brought Michael out of his thinking. He turned around with a frown. Since Layla wore the necklace given by Michael, Azazel watched everything that had transpired between Layla and Edith. Unfortunately, Michael had no idea Zachary and Austin kidnapped the spirit child to threaten him. "Why did she do that?" asked Michael. He followed Azazel behind to the surveillance room. With a flick of his wrist, Azazel replayed the recording of Layla and Edith. Michael watched the scene without blinking an eye. Looking at Layla argue with Edith, he was surprised. He never expected Layla to slap Edith literally. This was the second time Michael had seen her lose her calm and composure. Truth be told, Michael didn't think he could hate Edith more. Anyone with half a brain could tell Layla was not at fault with her father. It was obvious to Michael Norbert had done something to deserve Layla's wrath. But her family matter was not Michael's concern. By telling Edith what had happened between him and her, Layla had given something that could be used against both of them to Edith, a lackey of Victoria. "Azazel, go to the Rainbow Island and make sure everything's fine." Michael immediately ordered Azazel. "As you wish, my lord." Azazel knew the urgency of the matter. Hence, he quickly bowed and disappeared from Michael's sight. While Azazel was on his way to the Rainbow Islands, Michael headed for the pocket dimension to meet Eladir. Meanwhile, Gaia was in the southern continent in her Dark Queen armor. She met Corey to get a report of the Golden Port battle. Since they achieved an overwhelming victory, Gaia ordered all the crew to take a day and celebrate as they saw fit, except the crew of Big Bertha. They were allowed to do anything to enjoy their day except drinking. Michael was strict about the booze policy. If anyone in his crew got drunk, he would throw them overboard. Why? Because Michael wanted them sane and clear-headed all the time. Gaia called Corey to the upper deck. She enjoyed the peace and calm of the sea around her. Winter had hit the entire world at the same time. However, the southern continent wasn't as cold as Azer or Elon. Corey approached Gaia wearing a thick fur coat. The upper deck was empty since the crew was enjoying their day on the deck below them. "How many ships have we lost?" asked Gaia. 30 to the Storm and 20 to the Thusians." 30 to the Storm? Seriously? Gaia shook her head. She was disappointed in the pirates. "We have taken control of almost 400 Thusian ships." "But my lady, we lack the manpower to man those ships," said Corey. "I took the initiative to recruit more pirates. It takes some time, but we will have enough men in a month or two." "Good." If it wasn't for the storm and lack of crew, Corey could have captured more Thusian ships. Using the raging storm to their advantage, many Thusian ships escaped Golden Port. That was the reason they were only able to capture 400 ships. "Can I ask you something, my lady?" asked Corey. Gaia nodded. "Who were those people who fought that giant dragon? Are they our allies?" "You could say that. Were you afraid? Afraid of dragons?" Gaia chuckled. "Kinda." Corey nervously smiled. "Then I hope you can overcome your fear sooner than later." After dealing with the things in the southern continent, Gaia left for King Gunnar's castle. When she arrived at the room where they planned everything, she saw Yagner, Prince Devarius, and General Bryce waiting for her. Prince Devarius was trembling as his eyes were bloodshot. Judging by the look, Gaia could tell something had happened in Northgard. "What happened?" asked Gaia. "The farmlands and villages in Northgard." Yagner hesitated to finish his sentence. "They ravaged the places, burnt many and took some villages hostage." "Then what are we waiting for?" "General Bryce, gather our men." Gaia ordered General Bryce. Prince Devarius felt somewhat relieved. A small part of his mind was expecting her to delay the attack on Northgard and focus on Thusia. But on the contrary, she immediately ordered General Bryce to gather the men. "I need to know how many Thusians were stationed at Northgard and who was responsible for the latest atrocities." Gaia said to Yagner and then turned her gaze toward Devarius. We are not going to take back Northgard. We are going to destroy the Thusians without mercy. You have a problem with that? Asked Gaia. I thought you would never ask. Devarius' eyes turned predatory. He followed Gaia outside to leave for Northgard. Gaia didn't wait for General Bryce to finish gathering up the men. Instead, she shot toward the sky with Devarius. The two of them flew toward Northgard. Gaia had to fly slowly to keep up with Devarius. After continuously flying for almost an hour, Gaia and Devarius reached the outskirts of Kingdom Northgard. Bordered between a mountain to the north, a wild ocean to the south, a river to the east, and lush grasslands to the west, the Kingdom of Northgard mainly lived off farming, fishing, and crafting. Northgard itself was mainly covered in hills and had a windy climate. The climate played a big role in farming. Although they didn't produce as much food as Suvin, they produced enough to become a self-sustaining kingdom. The kingdom's landscape was pleasant. Calm lakes, silent mountains, and sapphire lakes were just a sliver of the hidden treasures Northgard had to offer, which was why the kingdom was admired among foreigners. Plus, the people of Northgard were loving towards foreigners and tend to welcome them with goodwill. They felt foreigners could empower the kingdom's well-being. Despite the snowfall, Devarius could still see dark smoke coming from the village on the horizon. This was one of the villages Booth chose to burn to the ground. I am sorry for what happened there, but I'd suggest we strike the capital before the Thusians cause more destruction, said Gaia. It took Devarius a few moments to come out of his sorrow. I used to play here, Devarius said with a heavy heart. His voice stuttered because of the sadness in his heart. Why did they have to do this? Asked Devarius. Because the Thusians wants to break your spirit. As long as you fight for freedom, they can't control the kingdom as they like. They sent a message, and now it's our turn to respond. Let's head toward the capital, said Devarius. He didn't even bother to doubt Gaia whether she could fight an entire army or not. They were about to leave for the capital when she saw a group of Thusian soldiers flying toward the village. This group contained 6 men. Since each of them was flying on a sword, Gaia was able to tell they weren't at the core formation stage yet. Bastards! Devarius roared. He didn't even wait for Gaia's order as he dashed toward them. Devarius' speed was several times faster than the rest. The Thusians were startled by the sudden appearance of Devarius. The soldier who led the group lost his balance when he saw Devarius out of the blue. Fuck! Holy! The soldiers panicked. The scream of their leader was still echoing through the air. Everything seemed tiny from their view, so anyone could imagine what would happen to their leader when he hit the ground. But Devarius was not in the mood for imagination. He grabbed 2 soldiers by their necks and squeezed them till their faces turned purple. The others were too shocked to react in time. While Devarius was squeezing the life out of 2 soldiers, Gaia fired a normal iron arrow at a soldier who was trying to escape. The arrow penetrated his left thigh. Blood spurted out of his leg as the soldier screamed. Devarius didn't even blink an eye. The light of life slowly left the soldier's eyes. Among the 6, 1 fell to death, 2 were losing their lives slowly, and 1 was barely keeping himself on the sword. This left 2 soldiers unscathed. They looked at each other with pale faces. They trembled. Unlike Booth's general, these 6 were just foot soldiers. They were trained to look for any survivors in the villages and not to fight people like Gaia or Devarius. Finally, Devarius ended the 2 soldiers' suffering by snapping their necks. The 2 standing behind the dead soldiers panicked. Their minds went blank. They were about to turn around and leave when Devarius punched them with enough force to put a hole through their chests. Blood spattered on Devarius' face, painting it red. Gaia grabbed the one with an arrow sticking out of his leg. She lifted him up in the air as the sword fell down. He frantically squirmed in her hand. You have 5 seconds to tell us who did this. Gaia pointed at the burnt village on the ground. 1, 2, I don't know, the soldier cried. 3, 4. Gaia continued to count. The moment the count reached 5, Gaia let go of his collar. Ah! The soldier screamed, falling down from the sky. Gaia dived down and caught the soldier in the midway. The soldier's face was drenched in sweat. Devarius could hear the soldier's heart pounding against his chest. "Next time I won't catch you," Gaia threatened the soldier. "It's General Booth and his men," the soldier screamed without a second thought. "He ordered his men to burn some villages and take hostage a few. We were just sent here to look for any survivors. I swear I don't know anything else," the soldier cried. "Ah!" the soldier screamed as Gaia let go of his collar. Chapter 725, Don't lose your shit when we are in the capital. "Can you do that and follow my orders?" asked Gaia. Devarius nodded his head. The two of them began to head toward the capital. "What that bastard Booth was doing here?" Devarius growled. "He could have sent his men to do all this. Why was he here?" Devarius pondered. "Maybe he needed a win after what we did to the Golden Port," said Gaia. Eventually, after almost 2 hours, they arrived at the capital of Northgard. The capital was built amidst the gentle snows of a pristine tundra. It was truly an elegant wonder. Its grace was matched by the backdrop of modest hills, which had helped shape the city to flourish. The climate these hills brought were of great importance, but they were also influential when it came to architectural designs, as the vast majority of buildings have been built in shapes and with elements of the hills around them. The city was littered with various buildings, and their beauty was only matched by each other. Before the war, trade was at an all-time high in the capital. It had drawn a lot of attention, including King Maxim Barnes. Over time, new cultures left their mark not just on the city's people but also on the city's identity. Unlike any other cities or kingdom in the Azer continent, Kingdom Northgard and its capital had the highest number of other races. It was this multicultural identity that had truly left its mark. Hundreds of shops, inns, and ethnic restaurants offer a plethora of culinary choices. Those who would feel hungry for something else could enjoy nature, one of the many natural wonders, lakes, or peaceful grass fields. At that moment, the capital seemed gloomy. Gaia could barely see any people on the streets, which were completely blanketed by knee-high snow. Seeing the sorry state of the capital ached Devarius' heart. He saw his family's castle on top of the hill, covered in snow. He was tempted to visit the castle. "We would have welcomed the Thusians with open arms. We were a peaceful kingdom," Devarius' voice stuttered. "It's our fault for not being strong enough to protect our people," Devarius blamed himself. "No, the Thusians were just stronger. Plus, no matter what, Maxim would have always tried to take over your kingdom," said Gaia. "Why?" "Trade," Gaia simply said. "Suvan is the fruit basket of the continent. Zulon has mines. Ithilin is an impenetrable nature fortress." Gaia didn't say anything about the existence of the cosmic stream in Ithilin. And Northgard, he targeted it for trade. A trade that would take a year through the Golden Port could be made in 3 or 4 months through Northgard. Besides, the only bridge to reach Ithilin by land is connected to Northgard. Her words made perfect sense to Devarius. Ithilin people may have accepted the Thusians and even celebrated King Maxim, but the Northgard people had rooted pride. They would never accept the Thusians. As long as they resisted the Thusians, they would continue to suffer. The only way to end this was killing Maxim Barnes. "What's the plan, General Elia?" asked Devarius. "It's getting repetitive. We go to a place, kill the army stationed there, and take over the place. Rinse and repeat," Gaia sighed. "So what do you suggest we do? We can't rush into the city anyways. We still have no idea where the Thusians are keeping the villagers they captured. Go get captured. The odds are the Thusians will put you with the rest of your people and try to break their spirit," said Gaia. Devarius frowned. "How do you plan on finding me?" asked Devarius. He saw Gaia tossing a silver coin toward him. "Swallow that." "What?" Devarius was taken aback by surprise. "Swallow the coin. It will reveal your location to me." "Don't bother to learn how that works." Gaia shook her head. She chuckled inside, seeing Devarius actually swallow the coin. The coin had nothing special about it, as Devarius thought. When she tossed the coin toward him, she also threw a spider onto him. But Devarius focused on the coin and missed the spider crawling onto his robes. "I will know when you're with your people. Try not to get yourself killed," said Gaia. With a nod, Devarius flew toward the capital. Gaia noticed a Thusian patrol on the street. Devarius descended toward them. I hate patrolling in this weather. Shut up, Marcus. If you had controlled your lust, we wouldn't be here. Oh, come on. Don't blame me. I haven't felt a touch of a woman in 6 months. So bite me. Like you bit that girl in the butt. Fuck you. The soldiers patrolled the streets, arguing and laughing at each other. However, their laughter was short-lived. They felt a chill as soon as they saw Devarius in front of them. Freeze! The soldiers screamed. To their surprise, Devarius raised his arms up in the air. Holy fuck! Is that Prince Devarius? It's him. Don't move! The soldiers panicked but didn't run away. Without making any sudden move, Devarius slowly knelt down on the snow. You go and inform the general. Well, take him to the special place. These were the last words Devarius heard before everything went dark. The last thing he saw was the bottom of the soldier's sword. He felt a sharp pain before collapsing to the ground. From the sky, Gaia saw the soldiers knock out Devarius cold and drag his body through the snow. She slowly followed the soldiers. After an unknown amount of time, Devarius woke up in a dimly lit room. He heard water trickling down, drop by drop. He looked around to see nothing but muddy walls. The air smelled like blood and piss. He could move neither his hands nor legs. When he looked down at his feet, he noticed iron shackles around them. He shook the iron shackles, yet they didn't come out as he expected. Your Royal Highness. Suddenly, Devarius heard a whisper. He turned his head in the voice's direction. In the dim light, he saw a man behind bars a few meters away from him. Shit, they caught you, the man sighed. Devarius couldn't see the man's features very clearly due to the darkness in the area. He could only vaguely see the man's torn dress and messy brown hair. Are you alone? Asked Prince Devarius. I am with the people in my village. Your Royal Highness, you must save us. Grandpa Eddie is dying. We can't breathe here. The man's voice stuttered. Judging by the tone of his voice, Devarius could tell he was exhausted beyond words. First, you have to relax. What's your name? Alex, the man replied. Alex, relax. I am here to get you all out of here. But how? You're stuck here just like the rest of us, said Alex. I have a plan, but I need you with me, all right? Alex did not respond for a few moments. Alex, you're with me? Asked Devarius. Yes, Your Royal Highness. I just want to get out of here. I can't stay here for long. I am losing my mind, Alex cried. His sobbing startled Devarius. He wondered what kind of torture Alex would have gone through to make a grown man like him sob like a child. Manger boiled within Devarius. All of this suffering because of the Thusians. The hatred toward Thusians grew bigger by the second in Devarius' heart. I am going to get you all out of here. Okay? I promise? He will come. He will come. Oh my God. He will be here soon. Alex cried out loud. He suddenly panicked for no reason. To Devarius' surprise, Alex tried to bend the metal bars with his hands. Alex was so desperate to get out as he began to bite the bars. Who is he? Asked Devarius. However, Alex didn't respond to Devarius. Instead, he kept trying to bend and bite the bars. Devarius looked behind Alex to find another saner villager. Alex, get your shit together, man, Devarius growled. The sound of Alex's groan was interrupted by several heavy footsteps. As soon as Alex heard the footsteps, he frantically crawled back into the darkest corner of his cell. Devarius leaned back, waiting for the soldiers to approach him. I hope you come to my rescue again, General, Devarius mumbled under his breath. Soon, Devarius saw several shadows in the dim light. They slowly made their way toward the cells. Here he is, my lord. Devarius heard some voices. Unfortunately, he couldn't see their faces in the dim light. A group of soldiers opened the iron door to his cell. Thanks to the torches in their arms, Devarius finally saw their faces. Although he recognized none of them, the blonde-haired youngster in fancy robes seemed familiar for some reason. The soldiers around the youngster were armed to the teeth. It was apparent to Devarius that this guy was someone important. The Prince of Northgard. How the mighty fall. The youngster chuckled. He approached Devarius step by step. Devarius wanted to slap that smirk off of his face. You know, my soldiers told me you surrendered yourself. Now erase my question, why would a rebel like you surrender yourself without a fight? The youngster stared at Devarius from head to toe with his hazel eyes. For some reason, the youngster smelled like blood. I think you are planning something, the youngster exclaimed. Now erase the deal. I don't have the time or the brain to figure out your plans. So I am going to go into the next cell and start taking heads one by one until I hear your plans. Devarius remained silent as the young man turned around and left his cell. As he said this to Devarius, he ordered his men to open the cell where Devarius saw Alex. Devarius heard the villagers groan as though they were unable to speak. No, 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 Alex screamed. Devarius gritted his teeth. It'd be a good time for you to show up, Ilya, mumbled Devarius. Meanwhile, the youngster chose his target. It was an old man who looked as thin as a stick. The youngster dragged the old man by his neck until Devarius was able to see him clearly. The young man unsheathed his sword from the sheath dangling on his waist. He raised the sword in the air. Wait! Devarius shouted as the young man stopped his swing just a few inches away from the old man's neck. Diddle, diddle! A sweet voice echoed through the underground. The soldier immediately tensed up. A smile formed on Devarius' face, seeing a shadow of a girl in the walls. Who is that? The young man asked his men. The footsteps sounded louder and louder with the passing seconds. You wanted to know about my plan, right? This is it. Devarius laughed. Chapter 726. We are so little. Gaia's voice echoed through the cave. The soldier who went to check on her came flying. He left a trail of blood on his way. Devarius saw blood splatter on the metal walls and the iron bars. The soldier didn't even scream. He looked closer at the body to see a hole in his chest. Following the soldier's body, something else came flying. The youngster reacted, quickly catching the object. But when he saw the thing in his heart, his face lost its color. A bloody heartbeat in his hand. It took the heart a minute to finally stop beating. She is going to kill you all, and it won't be pretty, Devarius laughed. The soldiers around the young man panicked. Her shadow grew closer and closer to them. The youngster lost interest in the old man. He threw him away. How did she get in here? The soldiers mumbled. Who is she? Asked another soldier. They prepared themselves for a fight. Finally, Devarius saw Ilya stepping out of the darkness into the light. Blood trickled down from her fist. She crackled her neck. Nice place for a prison, Gaia said, looking around. Go kill her. The young man pushed a soldier in her direction. The poor soldier panicked. Still, he obeyed his order. None of them could tell how strong she was. However, Gaia soon answered their question by grabbing the soldier by his neck and snapping it without breaking a sweat. She tossed the soldier's body aside like trash. Seeing her kill the soldier so effortlessly, the soldier freaked out. Although they had numbers, none thought they could take on the girl. Who the fuck are you? Gaia asked the youngster. She slowly stepped toward him through the muddy floor. But when she was just a couple of meters away from the young man, a cage dropped from above out of nowhere, enclosing her within. Devarius' bright grin froze on his face. Even Gaia was surprised. The iron bars glowed as countless intricate runes radiated faint red light. Gotcha, bitch! The young man exclaimed. The soldiers around him were bewildered. Gaia stood within the cage without moving an inch. She tried to grab the bar, but the moment she touched the glowing bars, they burned her hands. The golden-haired young man stepped forward with a bright smile. He walked around the cage for a few moments. He enjoyed seeing Gaia trapped within the cage. Gaia looked above at the ceiling to see several runes glistening. Bright beams of light shot from each rune, forming the cage around her. For some reason, she quickly thought of Edith when she saw the runes. A bolt of energy shot her in the chest when she tried to cast a spell. Don't bother, the young man said. He was extremely proud of his achievement here. His glimmered with arrogance and pride. Despite his core strengthening stage cultivation, he was able to trap a fusion stage cultivator. He couldn't wait to show this gift to his uncle. Seeing Gaia trapped in the cage, Devarius was speechless. The light of hope in his heart slowly faded away. "You didn't expect this, did you?" asked the young man. "We were expecting you. But thank you for bringing us the prince. He's a cherry on top of a delicious cake like you." The youngster licked his lips. "Why are you being silent? I won't hurt you, at least not yet. After the shit you pulled in the Golden Port, could you blame us for wanting to rip you to shreds?" the young man said while walking around the cage. Gaia remained calm despite her situation. "Who are you, bastard?" Devarius shouted. He thought distracting the young man might give Elia a chance to break out of the cage. Instead, the young man signaled his lackey, wordlessly telling him to shut Devarius up. The young man was no longer interested in Devarius. He caught a bigger fish. "Are you wondering the same?" asked the young man. "I don't give a fuck who you are. You're gonna die anyways." After seeing Gaia getting trapped inside the cage, the soldiers gained courage and valor. They all had a smirk on their faces. Devarius saw a soldier walking toward him, cracking his knuckles. The moment the soldier arrived in front of Devarius, the soldier punched Devarius in the face. "You punch like a little girl." Devarius spat the blood out. The soldier punched Devarius again with more force behind his fist. "The woman in my kingdom punches harder than you." Devarius ridiculed the soldier. The soldier trembled in a fury. He started to punch Devarius left and right without giving him time to say a word. Blood and saliva spattered out of Devarius' face. The soldier did not stop until Devarius' face almost doubled up in size. His face was swollen and became unrecognizable. The soldier massaged his fists. "I hope he didn't kill him," the young man pouted. "You see that?" He pointed his finger at Devarius. "That's just the tip of the iceberg compared to what's going to happen to you. Since you're a nice-looking girl, we might not rough you up like him." To the young man's surprise, Gaia laughed. "What's so funny?" asked the young man. "Almost everyone who speaks like you dies in the end. Don't you get it, asshole? You're just a cog in the machine I am going to crush. If you have any desire to live, I'd suggest you drop everything and run away from here as fast as you can," said Gaia. Noon replied to Gaia for a moment. Once again, silence haunted the place until the young man chuckled. "You are indeed a crazy bitch. Open your eyes. You're the one inside the cage. Or do you think we are inside a cage because of the iron bars between us?" The soldiers laughed at his joke, which made the young man laugh louder. "My uncle is going to love this bitch," the young man told his soldiers. Gaia frowned. Seeing the frown on her face, the young man tilted his head. "Oh, where are my manners? I am Kevin Kemper, nephew of the one and only Booth Kemper, the Duke of Valeria, and the general of the Thusian army." The young man puffed his chest and introduced himself with immense pride. Gaia simply couldn't believe his words. She thought the cage surprised her before she heard the young man. "Jackpot!" Gaia smiled with excitement. The smile on Gaia's face confused Kevin. "Why are you smiling again?" asked Kevin. "You knocked him out and revealed your identity." "That's so." Gaia couldn't finish her sentence as she burst into laughter. "You so unlucky and stupid." Gaia barely finished off her sentence. But suddenly her laughter stopped. Instead, her face turned cold. The temperature in the room dropped by several degrees. To Kevin's surprise, her eyes glistened. The round pupils turned vertically slit in a blink of an eye. The snake-like eyes freaked out the soldiers. "My lord, look!" one soldier whispered to Kevin. He looked at Gaia's hands as violet scales appeared on her skin. Kevin immediately took a step back when she hissed at him. Gaia grabbed the iron bars. Just like before, the runes burned her hands. However, Gaia did not let go of the bars. She roared, splitting the iron bars apart. The runes in the bars flickered, radiating faint rumbling noise. "Stop her," Kevin ordered his men. The haughtiness in his tone completely disappeared. Instead, he trembled in fear. The soldiers were no different than Kevin. They all inhaled the fear toxin released by Gaia. "Arg!" Gaia roared, bending the iron bars with her raw strength despite the runes burning her hand. In a few moments, she bent the iron bars enough for her to slide through. Kevin saw a giant cobra sliding through the iron bars for a second. But that image of the cobra in his mind disappeared as fast as it appeared. "What are you?" Kevin questioned Gaia. The soldiers behind him took a step backward. They no longer had the courage to face Gaia anymore. Gaia did not answer Kevin. Instead, she grabbed him by his neck and lifted him off his feet. Gaia kept Kevin in the air without uttering a word. Meanwhile, the fear toxin took full effect on the soldiers. Since the soldiers weren't even at the core strengthening stage, their bodies and minds couldn't withstand the effects of the fear toxin. They soon began to hallucinate and cry. Finally, they collapsed to the ground and crawled back in fear. Their screams echoed through the silent underground. Even Kevin's body began to shiver as white foam leaked out of his mouth. "Does your uncle love you?" Gaia asked Kevin. "How much he loves you. He will hunt you down if something happens to me." Kevin managed to utter these words. "Good. Saves us the trouble of finding him." Gaia snicked. Kevin's face slowly turned purple due to the lack of oxygen in his head. Some of the villagers who witnessed the soldiers scratching the walls to escape the place looked bewildered. They wondered who the girl was and how did she come here. Gaia didn't bother to think about the villagers. All of her focus was on Kevin. From a few meters away from Gaia, Devarius slowly opened his eyes. His head ached because of the beating he had taken a few minutes ago. Thanks to the beating he took, his vision was still blurry. However, he could vaguely see Elia out of the cage. To his shock, the youngster was struggling in her hand. "No. Please don't hurt me. Let us go." "No!" The soldiers cried and screamed. Fear had completely taken over their minds. Devarius could hear their cries but didn't feel a bit of pity for them. While Gaia was dealing with Kevin, a youngster was flying in the sky as fast as a bolt of lightning. His white robes, along with his raven-black hair, fluttered in the wind. His calm eyes glistened like bright stars in pitch-black sky. But behind those calm eyes, there was concern and unease. Around him was an endless ocean. Then, after flying for an unknown amount of time, finally, an island appeared on the horizon. "That's the Rainbow Island," said the young man in white robes. "And that's where I sense this weird energy." Another voice sounded in the air. Chapter 727. Noah hovered in the sky, looking at the Rainbow Island on the horizon. For some reason, he had a bad feeling in his gut. "Noah, why are you waiting here?" Noah heard Andreas' voice in his head. "I have some bad feelings about this," said Noah. "Me too," said Andreas. "That weird energy. I haven't felt something like that ever before." Noah was on his way to meet Alicia when Andreas sensed something. He immediately ordered Noah to follow his directions. Truth be told, Noah had never seen his teacher shocked like this. So Noah did not waste any time as he did what he was told to. To his surprise, Andreas led to the outskirts of the Rainbow Islands. "We don't have all day, Noah," said Andreas. With a nod, Noah flew forward toward the island. To Noah's shock, he saw Nerida and Johanna on the ground, unconscious. He felt some strange energy fluctuations in the air. Judging by the look of the ground, Noah could tell a decisive battle had occurred here. Noah quickly landed beside Johanna and Nerida. "Miss Johanna, Moss Nerida," Noah called out to them. He gently shook their shoulders, but they didn't respond. Noah placed his finger on their necks, sensing their pulses. Fortunately, they were alive. Noah was about to retrieve healing potions from his space ring when Andreas materialized before him. "Don't wake them up. I sense something inside. Let's go check first." "What about them? They can tell us what happened here once we wake them up," said Noah, "and might stop us from investigating the place. You know I am right, so come." Andreas gestured at Noah to stand up and follow him into the cave. Having no choice, Noah followed behind Andreas. The place looked somewhat different than the last time Noah visited. He met Layla to give her the Witcher Stone. While walking into the cave, Noah noticed countless scribbles on the wall. They all looked weird and quirky, like a child's painting. The further he walked into the cave, the more Noah felt the strange energy in the air. Andreas and Noah made their way forward in silence. "What in the hell is that?" asked Andreas, looking at the glimmering tear in the space itself. The tear pulled both of them into it. Noah resisted the pull as Andreas moved closer to inspect it. "A realm tear," said Andreas. "Something happened here." "No shit," said Noah with a hint of sarcasm in his tone. Noah joined Andreas in front of the realm tear. This was the first time Noah had seen one. "Is it like a portal?" asked Noah. He was tempted to touch and look through the tear, but he controlled himself. No. The very fabrics of space and time itself had been torn by something. "We need to know what happened here." Andreas' voice became extremely grave. "Then we have to wake those two up. They can give us the answers we want," Noah suggested. "Yeah, but let's look around first. I have a feeling our friend Layla was hiding something big in here." Andreas began to float around the cave. Noah lit all the torches hanging on the walls with a snap of his finger. He brought the light back to the cave. They were able to see things more clearly in the light. Noah saw candles, meditation mats, books, and a few scrolls in the cave. As he was looking around the cave, he was taken aback when he saw a cradle in the corner of the cave. "This is getting interesting." Andreas floated toward the cradle. Noah followed Andreas behind. The walls behind the cradle had lots of scribbles of a child. "Ouch!" Noah jumped as a bolt of electricity ran through his body when he touched the cradle. "It zapped me." Noah rubbed his palm. But when Andreas' ghostly hand touched the cradle, Andreas' whole body shivered. He immediately closed his eyes, feeling a powerful, strange energy around the cradle. In his entire life, he had only experienced this feeling one time. He thought he had forgotten this feeling, but the answer was no. It was so long ago as Andreas almost forgot. "Teacher," Noah called out to Andreas. He waited for Andreas to open his eyes. "A spirit child," mumbled Andreas. A spirit child was here. Noah was no stranger to the concept of a spirit child. Andreas made Noah read thousands of books. Thus Noah knew quite a lot. Noah frowned. A spirit child was created when a male cultivator's soul walked a female cultivator, which was a forbidden act. It was equal to forcing oneself on someone. "The Witcher Stone," Noah mumbled. When he gave Layla a Witcher Stone, Noah didn't know why she needed a Witcher Stone, at least he didn't know at that time. However, recently Noah discovered a piece of Andreas' soul and helped his mentor absorb this soul piece. As a result, Andreas regained more knowledge and memories. Noah learned that a Witcher Stone was to give a physical body to a spirit child in a ritual, along with some other things. Everything else could be obtained relatively easier, but not the Witcher Stone. "I can't believe it." Noah shook his head. He simply couldn't believe someone has soul-walked Layla. She was a fusion stage cultivator. Noah couldn't name a single person who was strong enough to touch Layla, let alone soul-walk her. The strange energy, the scribbles on the wall, the Witcher Stone. "It all makes sense," Andreas said slowly. "A spirit child was here. There's no mistaking it." Noah couldn't disagree with his mentor. As Andreas said, everything made sense, pointing toward the existence of a child in the cave. "Search the place," Andreas ordered Noah. After learning about the spirit child, Noah doubted Narita and Johanna would be much help to him. He was sure they would hide the child's existence. "Light of truth." Noah closed his eyes, casting a spell. A bright wave of light washed over the cave. Noah slowly opened his eyes. His gaze turned his head to the side, glancing at the wall. In his view, he saw a glimmer of light inside the wall. He walked toward the glimmer as Andreas followed him behind. When Noah reached the wall, he ran his hand through the wall. "It's hollow." Noah knocked on the wall. Andreas heard a light thud sound. Noah gently rubbed his hand through the wall until he found a tiny hole. Noah's finger didn't fit the hole, so he picked up a quill from his space ring and stuck the quill into the hole. Noah heard a crack as a piece of wall fell down, revealing a brick-sized hollow within the wall. Inside it, Noah found a tiny book. Under Andreas' gaze, Noah opened the book. The first page of the book contained scribbles and various shapes. He turned the page one by one until he saw some words. "Today, Mother taught me how to read and write. She seemed so happy when I wrote my first word. Mother. Noah read the words. Sister Narita said if I feel lonely, I can write whatever I want in a book and keep it safe. So here I am, writing something. Noah read these words on the next page. He turned another page and saw something about the food. Noah felt bad for reading someone else's journal, especially a child's. But he hoped this journal might reveal something about the realm tear. If this child was capable of tearing the realm itself, Noah needed to know everything about it before the child could cause more harm. Today, I asked Mother about father. I learned from Sister Johanna that every child has a father. Mother did not answer me. But when I met Sister Johanna later, her eyes were puffy. I think Mother scolded her. But why? Why can't Mother tell me who my father is? Noah read the words. Afterward, Noah turned the pages one by one but didn't find anything valuable. Instead, he saw the child's day-to-day life, nothing interesting. I heard Mother talking to someone about a fight in a place called Holy Church. She was worried and didn't say a word. I know my mother is not a very talkative person, but this silence was new to me. I can see it in her eyes. She is worried sick. How old is this child? His words sound mature for a child who learned to read and write recently. Andreas wondered about the child. Fight in the Holy Church? Do you think he's talking about the battle between the Dark Lord and Ghost? Asked Noah. I can't say no for certain. Andreas shook his head as Noah continued to read the child's journal. Yesterday, I had this weirdest dream. Before I went to bed, I asked Mother about father once again. As usual, Mother didn't say a word. She just said it's better if I don't know who my father is. I disagree. I want to meet him. I was thinking about father and I had a dream. I was floating in the sky. It was night, I think. Everything was dark. I called for Mother, but no one heard me. Then I saw someone. He was talking to a snake. Strange, isn't it? Unfortunately, I couldn't see his face. I tried to approach him, but I was unable to move my body. The snake in his hand looked right at me. For some reason, I had a feeling the snake wanted me to get away from the man. Felt so real. Now I can't help but think whether this dream is a sign. Sister Narita and Johanna always told me I am special. If I am special, is there any chance this dream is a sign? Could he be my father? After Noah finished reading everything the child wrote about his dream, Andreas had a deep frown on his ghostly face. Noah turned another couple of pages, hoping to find out more about the child's dream and his father. Okay, I know this is going to sound weird, but I had another weird dream yesterday after I asked Mother about father. The only difference this time was I saw an island. It was on fire. The man I saw in my previous dream was there with his snake. It was laughing at the burning island. Why do I have this kind of dream every time I ask about my father? Now I can't stop believing the man in my dream, and my father has some kind of connection. Is this kid having nightmares? Or does his dreams really have some meaning? Noah asked Andreas. There are many types of dreams. Some might give a glimpse of the future, and some might show us what we desire deep down. This child wants to see its father, so it might be dreaming about him. But I have a feeling his dreams have some kind of meaning, Noah said, turning the pages. I can't believe what I saw in my dreams today. I saw the man again in my dreams. This time, there was no darkness. I saw him floating in the air without the snake. I wanted to talk to him, but when I approached him, he turned the day into night. I am not going to hide my dreams anymore. When Mother returns, I will tell her about them. Noah read the words. He turned the pages, but they were empty. We need to find this child. Noah and Andreas said these words simultaneously. Chapter 728. Noah and Andreas rushed out of the cave. After reading the journal, they both had a grave feeling in their guts. This time, Andreas did not stop Noah from giving the two girls healing potions. Noah squatted beside Narita and Johanna. He gently opened their mouths and poured the healing potion into their mouth. As the healing potion trickled down into the throat, rosiness returned to their faces. Narita groaned. Johanna managed to open her eyes slowly. The moment realization hit Johanna, her eyes went wide. She almost jumped to her feet. Where is he? Johanna didn't even say anything to Noah. Instead, She rushed into the cave. Narita followed her behind. "Are you thinking what I am thinking?" Andreas asked Noah. "The man who turned the day into night," Noah mumbled. "The Dark Lord," Andreas said with a grave tone. The mere mention of the name made Andreas tremble in fear. "We can't tell that for sure. As far as we know, it might just be a dream," said Noah. However, he didn't believe it to be the truth. Noah just didn't want to jump to conclusions based on a child's dream and a journal. "Come on, Noah. Deep down, you feel it. The question is, who is the Dark Lord to the child?" Noah remained silent with a deep frown on his face. "The Dark Lord certainly has some hold on the child. We need to find the child before the Dark Lord does." "Where is the child?" Noah turned around, hearing Johanna's roar. She dashed at Noah and grabbed Noah's collar. "I just came here and saw the two of you unconscious," said Noah. "Tell us what happened so I can help you. Who was here? Who knocked you out?" Noah questioned Narita and Johanna. Narita and Johanna did not answer Noah. Instead, Noah saw their eyes tearing up. "I know about the spirit child." As soon as the two girls heard Noah, their hearts skipped a beat. Johanna's hands fell down, letting go of Noah's collars. "If the child isn't inside, whoever knocked you out must have taken it," said Noah. "We need to find that child, Noah." Noah heard Andreas panic. Johanna and Narita looked at each other. They were about to turn around and head out of the island to find the child when Noah stopped them. "A child is in danger, and you two want to keep its existence a secret? Let me help you." Johanna and Narita stopped on their steps. "You don't have much time. Where are you going to search? Don't be stupid. A child's life is in danger, for God's sake. If Layla wants to punish me after I find the child, she is welcome to do so. Now tell me what happened here." Noah's tone became dominant. His godly aura made Narita and Johanna tremble. They couldn't resist trusting Noah. If the Dark Lord's aura made the others scared, Noah's aura influenced others to trust in him. Johanna and Narita couldn't think straight. The disappearance of the child made their minds go blank. Tears rolled out of their eyes as the two began to tell Noah what had happened earlier. Although they accepted the existence of the spirit child, they did not reveal anything about how it came to this world or anything related to its power. When they finished their story, Noah took a deep breath. "If we find who attacked you, we will find the child," said Noah. "We must tell the mistress," said Narita. "One of you must stay on the island in case someone else comes here. I will use my contacts in the guild to find the child." "No!" Johanna shouted. "You cannot tell anyone about the child." I will just tell them I am searching for a normal child, not a spirit child." After leaving the island, Noah headed straight toward the Osier continent. "Any plan on how to find the child?" asked Andreas. "If we can find who attacked them, we can find the child." "How do you plan to do that?" "Layla wouldn't have told many about the child. I don't believe the two men who attacked the girls happened to stumble upon the child. They knew a child was living there. So the one who took the child must be someone who knew about the child. First, I need to know everyone Layla told about the child. It can't be a long list." "Those girls have no clue about where Layla is," said Andreas. "But I know someone who might have. Edith, your sweetheart." Even in a situation like this, Andreas managed to find humor. Noah heard his teacher chuckle. However, Noah was not in the mood for fun. On the contrary, he was pretty serious. "Teacher, what if the Dark Lord was the child's father?" Noah hoped Andreas would say no. Unfortunately, Andreas remained silent for a few moments. "I believe so." On contrary to what Noah wished for, Andreas agreed with Noah's feelings. Although Noah had this feeling that the Dark Lord was the child's father, his heart refused to believe so. Noah knew better than anyone what would happen to the child and Layla if the Dark Lord was the child's father. The Sky Hall and the Guardian Guild would nail the mother and child as punishment. Noah never wanted innocent people like Layla and the child to get punished because of the Dark Lord. After all, the child did no wrong. The Dark Lord is evil, Noah. No one would have chosen to soul-walk someone except him. But we must know whether Layla knew of this or not. If she knew about the Dark Lord and didn't report to the guild, She have to be treated as an accomplice. What about the child? Until we know the full extent of its powers, we have to keep the child safe from the outside world. You mean keeping the child locked up? Noah frowned. As much as Noah wanted to put an end to the Dark Lord threat, he didn't like to sacrifice innocent people in the process. He learned the cost of taking a life the hard way. To be honest, it had been months since Noah slept peacefully. Every time he closed his eyes, he could see the children crying for their parents, who Noah had killed. Noah used to kill people who tried to kill him. This was a dog-eat-dog world. Only ruthless and heartless people could survive. Noah used to be one in such a world until he saw the aftermath of each life he took. With every man Noah killed, the number of orphans went up. It was one of the many reasons why Noah stopped taking lives. Instead of getting used to a cruel world, Noah wanted to change it. Even though it meant fighting the whole world, Noah was ready for it. It's the spawn of the Dark Lord, Noah. It might be an innocent child now, but soon, the Dark Lord's blood within the child will corrupt it. We can't take the risk of letting tiny Dark Lord run around. But teacher, I won't let the guild or anyone hurt the child until it stays innocent. If it gets corrupted by the Dark Lord, as you said, we will take care of it, Noah firmly said. I may have taught you too well, Noah, Andrea sighed, but he was extremely proud of Noah. While Noah was on his way to the Azer continent, General Booth was in his room. A bright smile was plastered on his face due to Zachary and Austin's successful mission. Booth emptied a glass full of wine in a single gulp. Got you, fucker, Booth grinned. He cursed Ghost and poured another glass of wine. Your Grace, Booth heard his maid knocking on the ground. Enter, sweetie. Booth welcomed the maid into the room with an ear-to-ear grin. He started taking off his robes, preparing to feast on his beautiful maid. But his hands stopped when he saw a wooden box in his maid's hands. On top of the wooden box he saw a scroll. Your Grace, this is addressed to you. Our runemasters checked it for explosions, but they said it's clear. Did they open it? Asked Booth with a frown. They couldn't, Your Grace. They said it requires your fingerprint to open the box in this scroll. The maid put the box on the table. Looking at the box, the lust in Booth's eyes faded away. You can leave. Booth dismissed the maid. After she left him alone in the room with the box and the scroll, Booth slowly grabbed the scroll. As soon as his hand touched the scroll, several runes glowed on its surface. Booth opened the scroll and read the words. My dead Booth, the last time we met, you gave me a gift I cannot forget as long as I am alive. So I thought I should return the favor. Unfortunately, it was nowhere close to the gift you gave me. But I tried my best and am still working on other gifts for you. I hope it puts a smile on your face. I really wish I was there to see your smile. Your best friend, Ghost aka Abraz. The moment Booth's eyes fell on the last words, he clenched his fist until his nails began to penetrate his skin. Blood trickled down from his palm. Shockingly, Booth's hands shivered slightly. He slowly touched the wooden box to open it. Just like the scroll, the box lit up when he touched it. A cracking sound resonated from within as though a hidden lock had been unlocked by his touch. Booth slowly opens the top of the box. To his shock, a bloody head was inside it. Booth's eyes turned red almost immediately as he picked up the head. Kevin, Booth mumbled. He closed Kevin's eyes. Judging by the terror in Kevin's eyes, Booth could tell what he must have gone through in the last moments of his life. Booth couldn't stop his body from trembling in anger. He wanted to destroy everything in the room. Although Booth and Kevin didn't share a strong bond, Kevin was still his family. He had known Kevin since he was little. The fact that someone else had tortured Kevin, cut his head, and dared to send it in a box made Booth's blood boil. Ghost! Booth roared as the table before him, and the box exploded into pieces. Chapter 729 Your Grace. The maid entered the room after a while. Booth put the head back in the box and summoned Edith. Miss Edith is waiting for you, said the maid. Good. Let her in, Booth ordered the maid. Despite what happened, Booth didn't show any anger in his tone. As you wish, Your Grace. The maid bowed and left the room. Booth silently waited for Edith, staring at the snow-covered city through the window. The people of Valeria had no worries with their guardians looking over them. Unlike the other parts of Azair, the war didn't touch the land of Valeria. Booth was a great general and even greater duke than many had expected. His ruthlessness, coupled with King Maxim's financial support, turned once ordinary duchy into an extraordinary place. Many Thusians preferred to live in Valeria more than even Diamond Valley. But Booth knew the tranquility he sees is temporary. The moment Ghost stepped into his duchy, it would be thrown into war. Ghost could attack them in an all-out war. Instead, he was taking his time, just like Booth did to the sanctuary. It was not an understatement to say the majority of the Thusians were terrified, including the royal family. The last time Booth met Queen Valeria, she seemed as graceful and courageous as before, yet Booth could see the fear in her eyes. The loss they suffered in the Golden Port battle was slowly taking effect. Without the Golden Port, they would face hardships in bringing food to survive the winter. If that was not trouble enough, Booth read the reports that Ghost's army was planning to launch a full-scale attack on Northgard. Duke Booth. His train of thought was abruptly stopped by the gentle voice of Edith. "Come in," Booth said. He slowly turned around, gesturing for Edith to take a seat before him. "I have a gift for you. I received it, but I feel like you also deserve to see it," said Booth. "Is that the gift?" Edith pointed at the wooden boxes. As a runemaster, she could see engraved runes in the wooden box. "Yes," nodded Booth. He slowly sat on his chair before sliding the box toward Edith. She took the box in her hand. For a few moments, Edith looked around the box, felt heavy in her hands. Finally, Edith placed the box on her lap and slowly opened the top. The moment she opened the box, a pungent stench of blood hit her nostrils. Her eyes widened as she felt a chill looking at the severed head. "Ah!" She threw the box in the air. With a flick of his wrist, Booth controlled the box and made it safely land on it with the head still inside. Edith's face was pale. She breathed heavily. "Guess who that is?" "My nephew Kevin," Booth said without showing any signs of anger in his tone. "He went to capture that bitch of a General Ghost have with the iron cage you engraved with your runes," Booth said. He was nonchalant. Edith was not in the mood to be shocked. Rather, she was too terrified. The image of the severed head, the dead eyes staring back at her, haunted her mind. Booth gave Edith some time to collect her thoughts. "I want to see the cage," said Edith. "My men are bringing the cage here as we speak. But Miss Edith, I am having doubts about your skills. If your plan to frame Ghost as the Dark Lord didn't work, we are all royally screwed. You know that, right?" Edith did not respond to Booth for a few moments. "I still believe no human could have escaped the cage," said Edith. "Your Grace." Booth heard a soldier's voice coming from outside the door. "The cage is in the backyard," said the soldier. "Miss Edith." Booth and Edith left the room without wasting time. They headed straight to the backyard, where everything was covered in snow. The dummies for the soldiers to practice almost drowned in the snow. The servers were still sweeping the snow, and some mages helped them by casting a fire spell to melt the snow. When they saw Booth and Edith, they immediately stopped what they were doing and bowed. The cage was bent and looked crooked, as though it was crushed by something heavy. Edith made her way to the cage. She walked around the cage. "What happened to it?" asked Edith. "Miss Edith, we found the cage under the rubble of the underground prison. Whoever attacked our men destroyed the place completely," said the soldier. Since Booth did not tell his men who attacked the Northgard trap designed for General Elia, the soldiers assumed it was an unnamed assailant who attacked the place. They didn't even know about the death of Kevin. "That explains the state of this cage," nodded Edith. Suddenly Booth creased his brows. He slowly walked to the cage and leaned forward to inspect the two bent metal bars closely. "What is that?" asked Edith, pointing at a strange-looking scale imprinted on the bar. Booth gently grabbed the violent scale and peeled it off the bar. He raised it in the air. "A scale of a naga," Booth mumbled. The scale glimmered in the light. It still radiated a faint glow. Anyone else would have mistaken the scale for a snake or a creature, but not Booth. He was too familiar with the nagas. After all, he spent a good part of his life in Nagaland. Hence, he knew more about the Nagas than anyone in the kingdom. How did it end up in the cage? Booth asked himself. Edith quickly conjured a ball of light. When she placed the light closer to the cage, the light illuminated a handprint on each bent bar. The handprint on the bar was several times bigger than a typical human's handprint. You doubted my skills. And now I am doubting your spy's skills, Edith said. She didn't like the way Booth ridiculed her skills. When Booth was building the cage and asking for her help, she clearly mentioned that no humans could escape the cage for 5 long hours. The plan was to capture Elia, knock her down within the cage, and transport her to Valeria to use as a hostage. Although the Nagas and humans looked the same when a Naga was in their human form, the Nagas were several times stronger when they transformed into their true form. In their true form, they became the strongest race only next to the sea folk. Some Nagas could even fight a fully grown dragon head-to-head. In other words, humans were nowhere near a Naga in terms of strength and power. So if the Naga was trapped inside a cage, he or she could break the cage with minimal effort. The report clearly stated they captured that girl. Booth recalled the report he read. His spies were no fools to mistake someone else for Ghost's general and fiancé. Booth turned his gaze toward the soldiers. Put the cage in the storeroom, Booth ordered his men. Afterward, he quickly made his way back to his room, followed by Edith. When the two of them reached the room, Booth put the scale inside a small wooden box. The reports don't lie. My men captured Elia, and she was the one inside the cage, said Booth. His voice and face became more serious than usual. Shock and surprise were written all over her face. She had been surprised too many times today. First, her sister revealed that she has a spirit child with Ghost. Now, Booth implicates that Elia might be a Naga. The scale Booth found and the sheer strength required to bend the bars she enhanced with runes all suggested a human couldn't have broken out of the cage. She is a Naga in human form. That explains her powers, said Booth. Only a few survived Gaia's slaughter, and they spread tales that almost sounded too terrifying to believe. Booth heard those who survived became insane. Even the best of his generals lost their lives to her. He always wondered how a typical human girl like her could be that powerful. Her origin as a Naga explained a lot. Fortunately, the Nagas were a race that preferred to stay in their kingdom. One could rarely see a Naga outside their kingdom. Moreover, the Nagas kept a list of their citizens who ventured outside Nagaland. Thanks to the Nagas' cautious nature, Booth had a chance to discover Elia's identity. At this point, Booth believed even her name Elia was anything but true. I have a few contacts in Nagaland, so we'll find out who she really is, said Booth. I have a better way. Give me a day, said Edith. If Booth had contacts in Nagaland, Edith knew the princess of Nagaland herself. You care to tell me what you're planning to do? Booth tilted his head. Believe me, it's better this way, said Edith. Booth did not argue with Edith. A day wouldn't make a difference. Besides, regardless of Edith's plan, Booth would send scrolls to his contacts in Nagaland inquiring about the Naga with Ghost. Edith left the room after taking the box with the Naga scale. Eventually, Booth left his room for the capital. He was ordered to meet Princess Victoria in the castle. They had to plan ahead for the upcoming battles. By nightfall, Booth arrived at Maxim Barnes Castle. He was welcomed by a group of crimson-red armored soldiers who were armed to the teeth. Powerful mages and archers accompanied the knights. They led Booth to the war room where he met Princess Victoria. Your Royal Highness. Booth dropped to his one knee, facing the princess. Rise, Duke Booth. Please, call me General Booth as you always do, Your Royal Highness. A slight smile emerged on Victoria's face. Only a few people had the ability to make Victoria smile, and Booth was one of them. He practically raised Princess Victoria with her parents. In public, Booth was a stoic general, but when they were in private, Booth was like a doting uncle to Victoria. Simply put, Booth loved Victoria more than he loved anyone in his own family, including Kevin. If Victoria's head was in the box instead of Kevin's, Booth would have gone berserk and destroyed everything in his path. Chapter 730. Booth joined Victoria at the war table, where they planned to fend off Ghost and his army. At that moment, The Minister of Defense and Minister of Finance accompanied Booth and Victoria. The Minister of Defense was an old man in his late 70s. He had a long white beard and short hair. His eyes glimmered with wisdom and power. No one would guess the old man's real age because of his sturdy, muscular body. He belonged to one of the proud families in Wuxia, Hearthstone. Minster Terence. Booth greeted the old man with a nod. Duke. Terence responded with a nod. Contrary to Terence, the Minister of Finance was a tall, fat man in his late or early 40s. His long blue hair had few strands of white while vigor glistened in his blue eyes. Minister Gordon. Booth nodded at the blue-haired man with a slight smile. Just like Terence Hearthstone, he hailed from a prominent noble family in Wuxia. In fact, Gordon was a close relation to King Maxim. He was the uncle of King Maxim Barnes himself and Calvin Howard's father. "How is Calvin nowadays?" asked Booth. After learning that Ghost was Abra's, King Maxim Barnes suspended Calvin from all of his minstrel duties indefinitely. King Maxim Barnes blamed Calvin for not doing proper research on Ghost. Instead, Calvin offered the position of Thusian Alchemy Guild leader to Ghost. Maxim Barnes was furious that they paid Ghost for almost 6 months without knowing his real identity and intention. Usually, Maxim Barnes would have sent Calvin to the gallows, but he spared his life because of Gordon. Even Calvin's own family blamed him for his incompetence. Although he was on suspension, they all knew it was highly unlikely that Calvin would return to his post again. "A mess," Gordon replied with a cold look in his eyes. He showed no empathy for his son. Calvin almost brought a snake into their home, and Gordon couldn't forgive him for that. "We can inquire about each other's well-being later," coldly said Victoria. They all nodded, bringing their focus back to the map on the table. "We have completely lost control of the Golden Port," said Victoria. "General Booth, how many ships have we lost?" asked Victoria. "Almost right 100 ships, give or take. My men are still coming up with the exact number. You'll have them on your table by tomorrow evening," said General Booth. Minister Gordon gasped in shock. As a Minister of Finance, he knew how much it would cost them to rebuild the naval army, as well as the effects of losing the Golden Port. "Minister Terence, what's your plan to retake the Golden Port?" asked Minister Gordon. "Taking back the Golden Port isn't as simple as you think, Minister Gordon," Terence said in his thick accent. "The ships we can build, but we cannot recover the loss of 2 valuable generals. We lost General Hubert and Franklin. I don't have to tell you about their achievements and contribution to this great nation. I respect and mourn their deaths, but what's your point, Minister Terence? Without the Golden Port, the survivability of our citizens through the winter has hit an all-time low. We have to take back the Golden Port," Terence sighed. "I understand your concern and know how important the Golden Port is to Wuxia, but taking it back costs us an immense amount of resources which we cannot afford to lose now." Terence moved the figurines of soldiers from Diamond Valley to the Golden Port on the map. "First, if we want to take back the Golden Port, we have to take the troops from Diamond Valley and send them to the Golden Port. Judging by our enemy's nature, they expect us to do just that so they can take over Diamond Valley without breaking a sweat. Second, even if we send the troops to the Golden Port, the terrain is unsuitable for large-scale battles. We need a naval army which we don't have anymore. The enemies have almost thrice the number of our ships after stealing most of our ships," explained Terence. "Finally, even if we have an army and suitable terrain, they cannot win against a half-immortal. I still have no idea why Ghost was taking his time instead of going all in." "He wants me to suffer," answered Victoria. "He wants me to feel helpless. When I met him in the Aquilan realm, he told me he would destroy everything father and I built brick by brick. That's why he allied himself with our enemies and is attacking our cities one by one." Silence fell over them. The 3 of them didn't show any signs of anger on their faces but burned with rage inside. They all adored and almost worshipped King Barnes. Therefore, they couldn't see anyone hurting him or his family. It took a great effort for Booth to stand still instead of venting his anger on Ghost's child. "To turn the tides of this war, we have to take Ghost out of the picture. Without him in the front, his army would fall apart. We can pick them one by one once and for all afterward," said Terence. The Thusians were prepared to fight many fusion stage cultivators, but not a single half-immortal. By reaching the half-immortal stage, Michael completely caught them off guard. If Michael was not a half-immortal, Thusians would have destroyed Michael and his army no matter the size of it. So it's a good thing you have me. Suddenly, they heard a calm voice reverberate in the room. The room trembled a bit. Booth felt the space around him distort for a moment. A small orb of light appeared a couple of meters away from the table. Soon, the light transformed into a dashing elf. Anyone would be mesmerized by the elf when they see him for the first time. The elf had a perfect jaw structure, flawless, smooth skin, and icy blue eyes. His golden hair added an extra layer of charm to him. The elf wore a set of armor mimicking the appearance of a dragon. The shoulders are oval, long, and enormous. They were decorated with hundreds of small leather pieces, imitating the scales of reptiles. His arms were protected by chainmail rear braces which sat well under the shoulder plates. The lower arms were covered by vambraces which had a layer of chainmail covering the outer sides. The armor's breastplate section was made from many horizontal layers of leather and fur with pointed edges and decoration pieces. It covered everything from the neck down, ending at the groin. He gracefully walked toward the fore. Everyone was able to feel the intense power radiating from the elf. Gordon's jaw dropped a couple of inches when he sensed the elf's cultivation. Half-immortal stage level 5. I heard you have a ghost problem. Yours truly is here to exorcise that ghost back to the hell he came from, the elf said with a playful tone. It was obvious the elf wasn't taking ghosts seriously. General Booth, ministers. Victoria's gaze swept across the trio. This is Lord Nelder. He's here to help us on behalf of the Guardian Guild. Victoria introduced the elf to everyone in the room. You got quite the pull to make the board put a high priority mark on Ghost. I am impressed, Nelder praised Victoria. The sooner you tell me where Ghost is, the sooner I can get rid of him and go back to my castle, said Nelder. King Gunner's castle in Edgerton, Suvan, said Terence. Wonderful. Should I bring his head? Or do you have anything specific in mind? This would be a good time for any requests. Just make him suffer for what he did to my soldiers and people, Victoria growled. With a simple nod, Nelder disappeared from the room as fast as he appeared. Gordon exhaled deeply. He felt like he was being crushed by an invisible mountain when Nelder was in the room. After the elf teleported out of the Thusian castle, the trio continued their battle plans. They didn't completely depend on Nelder to take care of Ghost. How long till His Majesty comes out of his seclusion? Asked General Booth. 3 more days. I will be with him for the next 3 days. General Booth, please take care of the security. I don't want anything to go wrong during Father's heavenly tribulation. I will guard the 2 of you with my life, Your Royal Highness, said Booth. During my absence, guard our cities as much as you can. If everything goes according to the plan, Nelder will take care of Ghost, and everything will go back to the way it was. Otherwise, we have to defend our kingdom till my father comes out of his seclusion. The 3 of them agreed with Victoria with a bow. Although Booth had a backup plan to deal with Ghost in the form of the spirit child, he chose not to share it with Victoria. He didn't want Victoria's soft spot for Edith to come in the way of his plan. If everything fails, the spirit child might be the only way to stop Ghost. While they were discussing their defense plan, they heard someone knocking on the door repeatedly. Who is there? Booth asked with a tinge of coldness in his voice. Your Royal Highness, I have an urgent report, the soldier outside the door exclaimed. Judging by the soldier's tone, Victoria had a feeling something bad had happened. Enter, said Victoria. After hearing her order, a soldier entered the room. His face was pale and drenched with sweat. He breathed heavily as though he was running for miles. Your Roy, skip the pleasantries and tell us what happened, said Victoria, preventing the soldier from addressing them with honorifics. Something is attacking our soldiers stationed at the Diamond Valley. Victoria and Booth creased their brows. What do you mean by something? Asked Booth. We didn't see it clearly, Your Grace. Please, send backup to the Diamond Valley. The soldier pleaded to Victoria. She quickly turned her gaze toward Terence. Minister Terence, Send a group of soldiers immediately to the Diamond Valley. Before I depart to my father's place, I want to know the full story of what's happening in the Diamond Valley. Chapter 731. The people of Suvan had to stay in their homes instead of roaming outside. The heavy snowfall intensified with each second. It added a grayish foggy glamour to the entire kingdom. The mournful cry of wolves echoed through the vault-still silence of the trees. A huffing wind rose up then, stirring the roofs of the wooden homes. A tinkling sound resonated as the blocks of ice pearls dropped onto the roofs. The sound was like the glassy clinking of a champagne flute, lilting and clear. Even the cultivators felt the bone-chilling coldness in the air. The snowfall passed over us, and the sound intensified. The noise of snow falling was like the fut-fut-fut that ripened nuts make when they hit the ground. It wasn't the soft, sodden, swollen drops of spring, but more like ball bearings were hitting the canvas roof with force. One could also hear an occasional kerplunking sound. It was caused by the ice gathered on the tent falling to the ground in a great swash of release. Michael stared at the storm getting worse through the window in his room. The storm didn't rage only outside but also inside of him. He received the news of Spirit Child's disappearance from Azazel. The only silver lining was Azazel told him Noah was on the island and most probably searching for the child. As he was pondering everything, Gaia entered the room. I heard what happened from Azazel. Gaia grabbed his hand, consoling him. Do you think we should start searching for the child? Asked Gaia. Michael shook his head. No. His answer truly surprised Gaia. She expected that even if he didn't personally search for the child, he would ask one of his subordinates to find the child. Contrary to her expectation, Michael outright refused to search for the child. I didn't drag this battle out to leave everything in the middle. Maxim Barnes is getting closer to triggering his heavenly tribulation. I have a feeling the Thusians took the child to use it as a hostage, said Gaia. If that's the case, we'll find the child soon, said Michael. But what will you do, Michael? What will you choose, the child or your revenge? Revenge? Michael didn't even take a few seconds. The hatred ran deep inside Michael to the point he didn't even care about the spirit child. No matter what, he would destroy Thusia. Since Michael told Victoria if she harmed his people in any way, he would reveal the existence of the cosmic stream to the outside world. It was highly unlikely Victoria had something to do with the spirit child's disappearance. She was not stupid enough to jeopardize the cosmic stream. Even King Maxim restricted himself from harming Michael's people in Elon because of Michael's threat. Fortunately, I don't have to choose. I fully believe Noah would save the child. Besides, I told Layla don't let the child come in my way, said Michael. My lord, our attack on the Diamond Valley is over. Our new allies safely retreated to their hideouts. Michael heard Azazel's voice in his head. Good, Michael nodded. He then turned his head to look Gaia in the eyes. You have to meet our new allies and make sure they fall in line. What about him? Asked Gaia. It'll allow him to live for now. I don't think he'd be interested in serving us. Gaia exhaled deeply. She slowly cupped his face and gently kissed him on the forehead. Just think about the spirit child's matter, okay? Seeing the child in person and making a decision is way different and difficult. I know, Michael said. He slowly leaned forward to lock his lips with Gaia's when he sensed a powerful threat in his environmental scanning map. He immediately cast the wind blast. The force of wind shot out of Michael's hand, blasting Gaia several meters away from him. As soon as he sent Gaia flying, a bright beam of energy shot through the glass and hit Michael. Thanks to the responsive shield and Michael's quick reflex, the energy beam grazed the side of his chest instead of penetrating. The side of the wall slowly crumbled down due to the energy beam's power. Gaia immediately jumped to her feet. She wanted to dash forward. Go away, Michael ordered Gaia. I'll take care of this, said Michael, slowly standing up from the ground. Meanwhile, the soldiers in the castle quickly rushed outside, hearing the commotion. An unnatural sound of thunder rumbling reverberated through the sky. Because of the storm, the soldiers couldn't see the man floating in the sky above the castle. Michael cracked his neck. Without lingering inside the castle, he dashed outside through the hole in the room. As soon as he exited the room, he saw an elf floating in the sky. Glistening energy balls danced above the elf's palms. The elf looked at Michael's chest with the torn cloth. He snickered. "I need to work on my aim," said the elf. "You made a mistake coming here," said Michael. The elf's half-immortal stage level 5 cultivation didn't scare Michael. In fact, Michael felt pity for the elf. He could have lived a long life as a half-immortal. Instead, the elf chose to embrace the sweet death by attacking Michael. The elf, on the other hand, did not respond. He directly shot another beam from his hand. Michael swayed his body to the side, evading the beam. But the cast walls were not very fortunate. The beam destroyed the walls. Several cracks formed all over the castle. Moreover, the soldiers were sent flying just by the sheer force of the beam. Michael was surprised. To him, the energy beam wasn't deadly. However, the mortal soldiers couldn't even withstand the shockwave created by the beam. Michael realized why everyone feared a battle between two immortals. "Let me guess, the Thujans sent you," said Michael. Once again, the elf shot Michael with another energy beam. The beam created an otherworldly whistling sound as it soared through the sky. Michael felt the temperature around him rise by several degrees. Besides, the beam distorted the space around him. The lightning bolts had an even more powerful effect, but Michael hadn't felt the effects of his spell like his opponents. Michael dashed out of the beam's trajectory. "You have to do better than that," Michael snickered. Instead of waiting for the elf to fire another energy beam, Michael flew away from the castle. The elf quickly flew behind Michael. While chasing Michael, the elf kept firing at Michael. Both of them used their speed spells. Soon, the elf started to fire a couple of energy beams simultaneously. Michael immediately retrieved his black shield. He turned around, blocking the energy beam with the shield. The moment the white energy beam and the black shield collided, it created a powerful shock wave. An eerie sound was several times more powerful and threatening than a thunderclap that echoed through the sky. As a result of blocking the oncoming energy beam with the shield, Michael was pushed with such force that his speed increased several times. It was like a nitrous boost to Michael's speed. His hand went numb, but he kept using the shield to reach his destination faster. The elf was relentless. Even after seeing Michael blocking his attacks, he continued to bombard Michael with the energy beams. To be honest, the elf was surprised by how sturdy the shield was. He wanted to get his hands on the shield. The elf had no idea Michael was 3 levels stronger than him because Michael paid the system to lower his cultivation level. As far as the elf was concerned, Michael was at half-immortal stage level 2. Each time Michael blocked the energy beam with the shield, he was pushed back 50 to 100 meters back in lightning speed. The shield began to turn lava orange on the edges due to the energy beam's heat. Michael's hands felt numb. "Nice shield," the elf said. His words echoed through the air like a thunderclap. The unfortunate village lost their houses when Michael blocked another energy beam with the shield. Soon, Michael felt the energy in the atmosphere distort violently. As a result, the grayish winter clouds turned dark. The stormy wind blew with enough speed to uproot several trees in the forest. When he fought, this was the first time Michael had seen such an effect on the environment. He could only imagine what would happen if two immortals battled it out. Now Michael realized why everyone, including the Guardians and the Council of Immortals, feared fighting the rogue immortals. They might win against the rogue immortal, but the collateral damage would be rather grave. The elf's eyes glistened with battle lust. As Michael expected, the elf slowly lost his sense of location. If he hadn't, he would have realized they were getting closer and closer to the island of Ithalin. Victoria and Booth planned to finish Ghost by sending a half-immortal. However, Michael outsmarted them by bringing their half-immortal to their own kingdom to fight. Since Michael had taken over the Golden Port, he targeted the Diamond Valley. Seeing Michael blocking his energy beams with the shield non-stop, the elf clapped his hands together. The thunderous clap produced a shock wave pushing Michael back and making him lose his balance. The elf's hands lit up as Michael sensed the elf's energy fluctuations around him skyrocket. Additionally, Michael heard an otherworldly whistling sound in the air. Michael's grip on the shield became tighter as he knew the next energy beam would be several times more powerful than the earlier ones. The moment the elf shot the energy beam, it lit up the entire dark sky. Michael heard a thunderous explosion from the elf's hands as though several grenades had gone off at the same time. The energy beam soared through the sky, cutting the sound barrier itself. Michael quickly grabbed the shield with his two hands and blocked the energy beam because the beam was too fast. Even if he had cast the Silenes, he couldn't have evaded the beam. Hence, Michael blocked the energy beam. The black shield turned orange and flew out of Michael's hands. But before flying out of his hand, the shield blocked the beam. The beam collided with the shield's surface and split into several beams. Each of the beams went in a different direction. The beams which hit the ground destroyed everything they touched. Houses crumbled down like cookies, trees turned into ashes, and citizens of Thusian got obliterated into nothing. The people screamed in utter fear. They ran for cover while flames engulfed the buildings. Even the armored soldiers weren't spared by the beams. The reflected beams lost almost half their power, but they were still powerful enough to kill a core formation stage soldier who also wore metal plate armor. Chapter 732 Diamond Valley was the crown jewel of Ithilien before the Thusians conquered the island. This small valley was named after its famous diamond mine. The name influenced the architects to build most of the buildings in the shape of a diamond. The city itself was bordered by a forest to the north, a large, frozen lake to the south, luscious grass fields to the east, and graceful mountains to the west. The people of Diamond Valley mainly lived off working in the diamond mine and crafting jewels using the diamonds they produced. The city's tropical climate and higher living standards made many prefer to live in the Diamond Valley. Most of the veteran soldiers and retired merchants chose Diamond Valley to live their last years because of its beauty and serene atmosphere. Diamond Valley's landscape was pleasing to the eyes. Luscious fields, dramatic mountain views, and jade-green fields were just a sliver of brilliance it has to offer, which was the reason the foreigners adored the city like none other. Using the diamond mines, the city prospered. It wouldn't be an understatement to say that Diamond Valley filled the treasury more than the other duchies combined, thanks to the diamond mine. Even the master craftsmen in the R continent preferred to work with the diamonds mined in the Diamond Valley because of their quality. Not a single mine existed in the world that could produce diamonds as quality as the Diamond Valley diamonds. However, only a few knew the secret of the mine. The cosmic stream affected the diamonds in the mine, yet no one knew this, not even the previous kings of Ithilien. Over the years, the cosmic stream slowly ran into the ground, blending with the natural diamond vein in the Diamond Valley. Hence, Diamond Valley had the best diamond mine. The importance of the Diamond Valley was the reason why Terence felt reluctant to take troops away from the duchy. Granted, the Golden Port was valuable, but the Diamond Valley was more important to the Thusian than the Golden Port. Victoria knew they couldn't afford to lose Diamond Valley no matter why. Hence, she put herself on the line to convince Oswald to send an immortal to deal with Ghost. Of course, Victoria had no intention of marrying Oswald's son. After Ghost's death, she would just order Booth to assassinate Oswald's son and make it look like someone else had done it. Unfortunately for her, Michael also knew the importance of the place. Thus, Michael picked it as his next target instead of attacking the Duchy of Valeria. To be honest, Michael didn't expect Victoria to send a half-immortal this soon. Luckily, Michael always had a plan for almost everything. Initially, Michael wanted to draw the troops away from Diamond Valley to the Golden Port and then attack the valley in full force. To build his army and a stronghold in the southern continent, he needed millions of coins or even billions. Obviously, he wouldn't be able to make money out of his restaurants and majestic stores after revealing his identity. Looting the mines clean and then selling the diamonds would take care of the financial side for some time. Unfortunately, according to the system, absorbing the cosmic energy from the stream would result in the destruction of the diamond vein in the valley. As a result, the mines might explode into pieces. Otherwise, Michael would have taken the Diamond Valley first and found a way to keep the mine to himself. The shield hit the lake below Michael. The water sizzled when the shield fell into it. It took a few minutes for the shield to cool down and return to its metallic black. In the sky, Michael's hand looked crooked. Gritting his teeth, Michael twisted his arm with a sickening crunching sound. The bone returned to its normal state as the APD healed the broken arm in a few seconds. The elf stopped attacking Michael for a few moments. Michael extended his arm toward the lake. A rune on the shield dimly glowed as the shield shot out of the water and flew straight back to Michael's hands. Michael clenched his fist as the shield disappeared into his gauntlet. "The sky is getting darker," said Michael, looking at the stormy clouds gathering above them. "Choosing not to join the council was a mistake, pal," said the elf. "Nah." Michael shook his head. "Choosing to kill me was a mistake," said Michael. Tiny golden bolts of lightning crackled around Michael's fist. They sounded like buzzing bees. Soon, the crackling bolts covered his whole body. He looked like the god of lightning instead of the god of darkness. Unfortunately for the elf, he chose to attack Michael at nighttime when Michael would be at his strongest. If the night was not enough, the storm made the place darker. As a result, Michael was way out of the elf's league. However, the elf had no clue how strong Michael was. "Whatever. The sooner I kill you, the sooner I can leave this godforsaken place." This time, the elf did not use the energy beam. Instead, he raised his arm in the sky as a trident materialized in his hand. As soon as the silver trident appeared in his hand, several lightning bolts struck the trident from the sky. Soon, the trident sparkled with electric energy. "You're not the only one with the aid of lightning," said the elf. "You have no idea who I am," Michael smiled. When Michael retrieved the golden spear from his space ring, a glimmer of surprise emerged in the elf's eyes. He didn't expect Michael to possess an immortal killing weapon. But the elf did not back off. Instead, he raised the spear as the bolts of lightning dancing around his trident formed an electric shield around his body. Michael and the elf dashed toward each other with their own immortal killing weapons in their hands. The two of them clashed in the mid-sky, ignoring the people on the ground. Thanks to Zanala's effort, most of the citizens evacuated the place. The people of Diamond Valley were truly lucky that Zanali expected Ghost's attack on the valley. Otherwise, she would have only evacuated the Golden Port and left the people of Diamond Valley alone. Nonetheless, some chose not to leave the duchy, and they paid the price with their lives. The elf swung his trident with deadly precision and technique. Michael blocked the trident with his black shield. He then retaliated with a kick. The lightning shield around the elf crackled, blocking Michael's feet from touching the elf. However, the sheer force of his kick pushed the elf back a few meters behind. The elf was surprised by Michael's strength. Although the elf hadn't fought a fellow half-immortal in centuries, he was able to tell Michael was stronger than a level 2 half-immortal. Michael quickly cast the lightning dash to move forward to close the gap between them. He stabbed the elf through the lightning shield. He almost penetrated the shield. The elf quickly managed to swat the spear away with his trident and pointed the trident at Michael. Several bolts of icy blue lightning bolts shot out from the trident. Instinctively, Michael clenched his fist, retrieving the black shield. The bolts of lightning bounced away, but not before sending Michael flying several meters back. Before Michael could regain his balance, the elf raised his trident toward the sky. The clouds rumbled above him. Countless lightning struck across the sky. The people screamed in utter terror, looking at the sky littered with bolts of lightning. They all gathered at the tip of the trident. He turned the trident, pointing it at Michael. A single dense bolt of lightning shot out from the trident. "Silenes!" Michael cast the spell. Everything around him slowed down. In his eyes, the lightning bolt traveled in slow motion. He swayed his body to the side, easily moving away from the lightning bolt's path without breaking a sweat. The spell lasted for a few seconds before everything returned to normal. It took a few moments for the elf to realize Michael had evaded the bolt of lightning at the last moment. His speed stunned the elf. Suddenly, the mountain in the distance exploded. Michael may have dodged the lightning bolt but didn't stop it. As a result, it soared through the sky until it hit the distant mountain in the Diamond Valley. Michael looked over his shoulder. A huge chunk of the mountain crumbled down. The smoke created by the destruction almost blanketed everything in a mile radius. Massive boulders rolled out from the mountain, crushing everything in their path. The poor trees and buildings stood no chance. Those boulders flattened them like a road roller. Talk about collateral damage, Michael chuckled. The elf was furious. He used one of his most powerful spells, yet he couldn't even inflict a small wound on Ghost. It frustrated the elf. As pouring fuel into a burning fire, Michael's nonchalant tone and words made him even more furious. Michael cracked his neck and knuckles. For some reason, the elf felt a strange fear in his heart. He looked closer at Ghost. To his surprise, his eyes completely turned pitch black. Suddenly, he felt a force restricting him, as though an invisible hand had grabbed him. The elf noticed the sky around him growing darker and darker. The elf tried to shake the invisible force away. But before he could even move an inch, Michael appeared before him. He punched through the electric shield around the elf. The shield flickered, forming several cracks. The elf felt a sharp pain in his gut. He looked down to see Ghost's fist on his chest. In a blink of an eye, his fancy robes caught flames. But the flames didn't burn in red. Instead, they were burned by black flames. Arg! The elf growled in pain. Every fiber in his body ached. Blood trickled down from the corners of his mouth. Michael didn't give the elf any time to retaliate. Instead, he slowly pushed the spear through the hole in the shield he created using the dark flames. I told you? Michael looked the elf in the eyes. You have no idea what I am? Michael whispered, pushing the spear slowly into the elf's chest. Chapter 733. Michael twisted the spear inside the elf's body. The elf coughed up blood. He tried to cast a spell, but the dark flames engulfing him prevented him from doing so. Michael pulled out the spear and stabbed the elf once again. Every time he stabbed the elf, the sky rumbled. Michael would have used his Soul Eater skill if it weren't for the people and soldiers on the ground. The Guardian Guild dash, the elf's words were abruptly cut short by another stab through his chest. I will kill them too, said Michael. The light of life slowly faded away from the elf's eyes. The golden spear in Michael's hands trembled. Countless runes glowed on its surface as the elf closed his eyes. To Michael's surprise, when the elf closed his eyes, he heard the loudest thunderclap in his life. It shook the entire sky as he saw several cracks appear in the sky itself. Bright rays of light peeked through these cracks for a few seconds before they disappeared. Ding! Congratulations to the host for killing a half-immortal level 5 warrior. The reward is 1 million experience points and 30,000 badass points. Ding! Congratulations to the host for successfully being a badass. The reward is 20,000 badass points. Michael heard the system notification in his head. He ignored the system notification and focused on his surroundings. Although he had never touched the ground or cast any spells upon the city beneath him, the battle between him and the elf had left the place in ruins. He could see the people running around screaming. Buildings were either on fire or in shambles. However, Michael didn't feel any pity for the people. The Thusians had done worse for his sanctuary. At least he didn't slaughter all of them like Booth and his men did. Michael tossed the elf's body aside. He knew they would send another one or make him their priority target after the guild heard about the elf's death. Only Michael didn't give a damn. He slowly turned around toward the mountain that received the elf's beam earlier. According to the map, that's where the diamond was located. He cast the initial and flew toward the mountain. In a few moments, he reached the foothill where he saw the entrance to the mine. Stop! Oh shit! As expected. A group of soldiers guarded the mine entrance. They were all at the core strengthening stage. Normally, they would have been a threat. But to Michael, they were as weak as ants. Michael didn't even bother to offer them an easy way out. He raised his hand, sending a crescent-shaped wind blade. Despite the metal armor and runes, the wind blade cut through them like a hot knife through butter. Blood sprayed out of their necks as their heads flew in the air. Before their bodies could hit the ground, Michael entered the mine. The mine was lit with bright orbs of light. He looked closer at the lights and found that they'd been using diamonds to light the place. Fucking bastards, Michael cursed the Thusians as he made his way deep into the mine. Along the way, Michael met a couple of patrol groups which he slaughtered without breaking a sweat. The deeper he went, the brighter the place became. Usually, uncut diamonds wouldn't sparkle. However, the diamonds in the mine shined brighter than any normal diamond. Even without any light source, they radiated a bright light from within. Michael bent down and picked a rough-shaped diamond. It was surprisingly heavy. He could feel a tinge of strange energy coming from the stone. If he was right, this energy was cosmic energy. Typical cultivators had no chance of feeling the energy, but thanks to the system and his god's blood, he was able to do so. Azazel. Michael contacted Azazel through the earpiece. In a blink of an eye, Azazel appeared before Michael. "Clean the place out. I don't want any diamond lying around after you're done," ordered Michael. "As you wish, my lord." Leaving Azazel alone in the mine, Michael left the mine through the way he came in. To Michael's surprise, when he stepped out of the mine, he saw Zanali waiting for him at the mine entrance. Unlike before, she was in her battle armor. He was covered from neck to toe with shiny red armor. Countless tiny snakes were engraved within the armor. Her red hair fluted in the wind. Behind her, elven soldiers armed to the teeth waited for Michael. They all had the symbol of the Guardian Guild engraved on their chests. Michael turned his back on Zanali. He raised his hand as a bolt of lightning shot through the mine entrance. Immediately the cave collapsed. Huge boulders crumbled down, blocking the entrance. Michael slowly turned around. "You're coming with us, ghost," said Zanali. "And why would I do that?" Michael innocently tilted his head. "You harbored a wanted criminal." Zanali surprised Michael. He thought Zanali was here to arrest him because he killed the elf. Without waiting for Ghost to respond, Zanali threw a scroll toward Michael. He caught the scroll and opened it to see the face of Gaia drawn on the scroll. It was her real face. "We have proof Elia is Gaia Ashton, the former princess of Nagaland. She is wanted for several crimes. By harboring her, you have broken the law." Michael was surprised. He couldn't help wondering how Zanali managed to figure out Gaia's real identity. However, he wasn't planning to surrender as Zanali suggested to him. "Are you hit in the head, Zanali?" asked Michael. "I just killed a half-immortal. What makes you think you can take me down with a group of soul-refining stage warriors? And you, I can end you in a blink of an eye." Michael snickered. Lightning bolts began to appear around Michael's hands. They crackled and buzzed like a hive of bees. "We don't want to fight you. Come with us and tell us where to find Gaia. If you help us find her, I will help you reduce your sentence for killing a half-immortal from the guild." The only thing that stopped Michael from ending Zanali's life then, and there was his promise to Gaia. For some reason, Gaia did not want him to kill Zanali. "You have 5 seconds to get out of my way," said Michael. He controlled the wind around him. The soldiers saw the wind swirl around him violently. The force of the wind pushed them back except Zanali. "Time's up," said Michael, raising his hand. A powerful gust of wind shot out of Michael's hand. A crimson-red barrier appeared before Zanali, saving her from getting blasted away. But the soldiers weren't fortunate. They were sent flying like dolls. The barrier before Zanali cracked. Michael just stomped the ground as the shock wave shattered the barrier. Zanali was taken aback by surprise when he dashed toward her. She reached for her sword, but before she could do that, he lifted her up by her neck. "Guardian Captain." The soldiers behind her finally regained their balance. They shouted as they rushed to save her. "Do they know you're a Naga?" Michael snarled. A glimmer of surprise and shock emerged in Zanali's eyes. "If you piss me off more than you've already, you won't have a kingdom to be a princess?" Michael squeezed Zanali's neck as her face turned purplish. He could see golden scales flicker on her skin. Michael really wanted to snap her neck and end the feud between Gaia and her once and for all. However, this wasn't his kill but Gaia's. That was the only reason why Michael chose to let her go. He tossed her to the side before shooting toward the sky. At that moment, the army stationed at the Diamond Valley reached the mountain. They prioritized saving the mine over the people. Seeing the army in one place, Michael stopped flying away. Instead, he turned around and descended down. "Get out of here!" Zanali shouted, sensing the energy around Ghost skyrocket. The army cast countless spells at the same time. They all attacked Michael simultaneously, but Michael didn't even flinch. The responsive shield appeared around him, blocking all the energy arrows, fireballs, icy spikes, ethereal beasts, and swords. Michael was about to cast the ultimate ignitia to bring down the wrath of hundreds of lightning bolts upon the army when he saw a meteor soaring from the sky toward him. The meteor burnt with such intensity that it made Michael's clothes smoke. His focus turned from the army to the meteor. Michael clenched his fist, covering it with the dark flames, and shot toward the meteor. The meteor cast a humongous shadow on the ground. The place darkened. Compared to the size of the meteor, Michael looked tiny. Despite the size, Michael punched the meteor with all of his strength. The meteor exploded, sending a powerful shock wave that decimated the army on the ground. Their collision sounded like an atomic bomb had gone off. Many lost their hearing due to the thunderous explosion. The meteor exploded into pieces, and they rained down upon the army. Michael grabbed 2 large pieces of fiery stones in midair and threw them at the person who cast the spell. His throw had enough force to kindle the flames more. The fiery boulders soared through the sky and hit General Zachary. Michael ignored the army as his killing intent went through the roof. He recalled the face of General Zachary. He was one of the men who accompanied Booth to the sanctuary. The moment Michael saw his face, his mind went blank as overwhelming rage occupied his mind. Michael dashed toward Zachary with lightning speed. Chapter 734. Is Ghost the Dark Lord? Michael didn't even stop to think about Zachary's plan. Zachary raised his hands as a stream of fire shot out of his hands. He hoped the first would stop Michael. However, Michael ignored the fire and appeared right in front of Zachary. Without giving Zachary time to react, Michael swung his fist. Zachary raised his hands instinctively to block Michael's punch. The moment the punch connected with Zachary's hands, his hands went numb. The force of the punch sent Zachary flying. Before Michael could attack him again, Austin brought down a huge metal pillar upon Michael's head. Michael swung his leg, kicking the metal pillar away. Austin lost control of the pillar. It was at least 12 meters long and 3 meters wide. Due to the force of Michael's kick, Austin lost control of the pillar. Michael grabbed the pillar and swung it like a cricket bat at Austin. On the ground, Zanali and her men barely survived the fiery boulders raining down from the sky. Her sight was littered with blood and mutated bodies. Everywhere she turned, she saw burning bodies and bleeding soldiers. Images of Gaia's terror flashed across Zanali's eyes. All these lives, Zanali mumbled. Her heart ached to see the lives lost. Although the Thusian soldier was just doing their job, Michael didn't spare them. In his eyes, they weren't innocent. This was war, and everything was fair in a war. If Thusia was any other kingdom, Michael would have spared the soldiers because they did nothing wrong to him. But not Thusia. He would slaughter anyone who stands in his way of revenge against Thusia. General Austin and General Zachary hoped to slow down Ghost. Despite their soul-refining stage cultivation, they were best of the best and cultivated using cosmic energy. Booth sent them to monitor his battle with the elf. In case Ghost had defeated the elf, Booth ordered them to engage Ghost. Both Booth and the general knew they wouldn't be able to kill Ghost, but their objective was to slow him down, not kill him. To Booth's surprise, Victoria suddenly announced that King Maxim Barnes would trigger his heavenly tribulation in a few hours. They wanted to prevent Ghost from attacking King Maxim Barnes during his heavenly tribulation when Maxim would be at his weakest. Any hindrance to the tribulation could take his life. Austin's eyes went wide when seeing Ghost moving toward him with godly speed. Even a veteran like him shivered at the sight of an angry half-immortal. Michael didn't give any time for Austin to cast a spell. Instead, he grabbed Austin by his neck, retrieved his black shield, and bashed the shield against Austin's face. "Where is your general? Is he hiding like a rat?" Michael asked Austin while beating him with the shield repeatedly. "You can't stop us." Austin grinned. His teeth were completely covered in blood. He even lost some of his teeth. Yet he grinned. One could see no signs of fear or pain on his face. Meanwhile, Noah finally landed on Thusia's capital. He rushed toward the castle. "Shit! The energy fluctuation in the atmosphere is all over the place." Noah heard Andreas' words in his head. "I can sense it too." Noah looked up at the sky. To his surprise, the snowfall had stopped. Instead, A dark, powerful storm was brewing in the sky above the capital. The storm was big enough to cover the capital and the Duchy of Valeria. It was not because of the battle between Michael and the elf but because of King Maxim Barnes. "Stop right there!" Noah heard a group of soldiers shouting at him. He noticed countless soldiers standing around the castle, preventing anyone from entering the castle grounds. "I am Noah Winston, Guardian Captain." Noah retrieved a gold plate engraved with the Guardian Guild's crest. Every soldier around the castle ground wore metal plate armor engraved with intricate runes. They were all armed to the teeth. Noah instantly recognized the runes. He had no doubt that these runes were the handiwork of Edith. The soldiers looked at each other for a few moments. "No one is allowed to enter the castle ground." Finally, the soldier shook his head. "I don't have time for this." Noah raised his hand as a bright light flashed across the area. Suddenly, the soldiers' bodies tensed up. A gentle layer of light covered their bodies. They stood like statues without moving an inch. Noah leaped into the air and landed right before the castle door. The two soldiers flanking the door quickly raised their spears to attack Noah. But Noah unsheathed his sword and swung it before they could even move an inch. A powerful wave of light hit the soldiers in a flash and knocked them out instantly. "Edith!" Noah's domineering voice echoed through the air. His thunderous roar could be heard from every corner of the castle. The light petrification spell finally wore out as the soldiers rushed at Noah. They surrounded him from all directions. Luckily, Edith walked out of the castle door. "Stand down," Edith ordered the soldiers. "He's a friend." Her voice swept across the soldiers. The soldiers reluctantly lowered their weapons. They didn't dare to piss off their prince's best friend. "Return to your posts," Edith said. The soldiers slowly backed off, returning to their posts. When Noah approached her, she noticed a glimmer of uneasiness in his eyes. Coupled with the way Noah shouted at her and how he entered the castle created a bad feeling in Edith's gut. Her mind and heart both agreed that something bad had happened. "We need to talk somewhere private," said Noah. Edith had never heard Noah in such a serious mood. The usual alluring smile was nowhere to be found on his face. Edith quickly led him to her room in the castle. On their way, Noah didn't utter a word. "Where is your sister?" asked Noah. Edith closed the door behind her and looked surprised by Noah's sudden inquiry about her sister. He was one of the few who knew Layla Alden was her elder sister. Until now, Noah had never tried to get close to Layla using Edith as others would have. "She went to Valeria with the queen," answered Edith. "We need to find her," said Noah. "What happened, Noah? You seem worried." Edith gently placed her hand on Noah's shoulder. "Someone kidnapped the spirit child from the Rainbow Islands." "Edith." Edith's heart skipped a beat. She couldn't believe what he had just said. Edith stumbled backward as Noah caught her before she tripped down. "What?" Edith's face went pale. Noah didn't beat around the bush because he didn't have much time. The spirit child had a strong connection with the Dark Lord. It might be the only way for Noah to find out who is the Dark Lord behind the mask and bring him to the light from the dark. More than that, Noah wanted to save the child. "I was on the Rainbow Islands. Someone knocked out your sister's students and took the child," said Noah. But, Edith stuttered. Layla made her promise Edith wouldn't tell a soul about the spirit child or its father. This promise prevented Edith from uttering a single word. "We don't have time, Edith. If you wish no harm to the child, you need to tell everything you know about the child." While Noah was on his way to meet Edith, he wondered whether Edith knew about the child or not. However, when he revealed the disappearance of the spirit child, Edith didn't act like someone who had no clue. This meant Edith knew about the child. The question in Noah's mind was how much she knew. Who took the child? Tears rolled out of Edith's eyes. For some reason, she felt like it was her fault. "That's what I am trying to figure out. First, you must tell me everything you know about the child." Noah shook Edith's shoulders. "I can't. I made a promise to Layla. A child's life is at stake here, Edith. A broken promise is better than a dead child." Noah leaned closer to Edith and lifted her face to look her in her eyes. "Trust me." Just like Michael, Noah also had an effort on people. If Michael made people scared of him, Noah made people trust him. Hence, when Noah looked Edith in the eyes and asked her to trust him, she completely trusted him. His words soothed her soul and calmed her down. Finally, Edith took a deep breath. "Forgive me, Layla," Edith mumbled under her breath. She began to tell everything Layla told her to Noah. Edith started the story from how Ghost and Layla met to their visit to the treacherous ocean. Andreas and Noah listened to Edith in utter shock. But Noah couldn't feel very surprised. If one could soulwalk Layla and survive, it was Ghost. But how Ghost survived didn't matter compared to the fact Ghost might be the real Dark Lord. Noah simply couldn't believe it. His whole body trembled for some reason. Noah knew the day they found the Dark Lord's real identity, everything would change. Both Andreas and Noah didn't believe the Dark Lord would go down without a fight. Noah and the Guardian Guild were nowhere close to fighting the Dark Lord. The last time Noah met the Dark Lord face to face, he almost killed Noah's family. Why did Ghost save his family if he was the Dark Lord? Noah was unable to think of Ghost as the Dark Lord. Noah heard Andreas' voice. "No, I don't believe Ghost is the Dark Lord, teacher. We both knew the Dark Lord tried to kill Ghost," Noah telepathically said to Andreas. Even Andreas started to have doubts. "Noah, you must find the child. I don't know how I would face Layla after this." Edith's words brought Noah back from his shocked state. Looking at the tears rolling out of Edith's face, Noah sighed. He gently wiped off the tears from her face. Booth! Suddenly, a thunderous roar reverberated through the entire capital. The castle literally trembled. "Ghost!" Noah recognized the voice. Edith's body tensed, hearing the echoes of Ghost's shout. Noah immediately exited the room and headed outside of the castle. "Where is Booth?" asked Noah on his way outside. "With Queen Valeria and my sister." "Shit!" Noah cursed inside. Chapter 735. Booth versus Ghost. Noah rushed outside with Edith. The castle grounds looked darker than when he first arrived. He looked at the sky to see a storm brewing. It was like Michael brought a storm everywhere he went. The reason for the storm was the energy radiation from Michael. It messed with nature itself. The soldier poised to defend the castle with their lives. However, Ghost seemed not to give a damn about the soldiers. Noah took a closer look at Ghost to see he was carrying two bodies. Since he was so far in the sky, Noah couldn't recognize the bodies. A few representatives of Wuxia dared to fly toward Ghost to negotiate. Ghost, a golden-haired man, led the group. His body jerked when Ghost threw the bodies up in the sky and dashed at him. "Where is Booth?" asked Ghost. The killing intent radiating from his tone made the golden-haired man tremble. "If you don't answer me, I will kill you and your family and throw their bodies in the sewer." "That's a promise?" Michael asked. His voice was cold. The man felt a chill running down his spine. Michael didn't even have to sue the fear toxin as the man already looked terrified. He went to Valeria. Good. Noah thought Ghost would let the man go. On the contrary, the moment the man answered Ghost truthfully, he snapped the man's neck and threw the body at the three men hovering in the sky behind him. They were stunned by the death of their colleague. Before they could do anything, Noah saw a wind blade cutting their bodies in halves. He wasn't playing anymore. Noah heard Andreas. Noah tried to shoot toward the sky to stop Ghost from taking more lives. To his surprise, Andreas stopped his body from doing so. "We don't know enough about Ghost, and you are not ready to fight a half-immortal?" Andreas growled. At that time, Ghost disappeared into the clouds. He caught the bodies he threw in the sky in midway. "We need to go to Valeria," Edith said. She panicked. Although she had seen Ghost murder people, his tone was strange. He seemed really mad. "I'll go there. You go to Diamond Valley, get Zanali, and find a way to evacuate everyone in the capital and Valeria." Noah ordered Edith. With a flick of his wrist, he took out a teleportation scroll. "Take this. It will get you to Diamond Valley." Noah gave the scroll to Edith. Without wasting any time, Noah shot toward the sky like an arrow from a bow. He flew in Ghost's direction, leaving a light trail. As he was leaving the capital, a group of holy guards from the church approached the castle. Finally, the Holy Church received the recording where the Blood Prince admitted working with King Maxim. Leaving the capital, Michael heads straight toward the Duchy of Valeria. It was time to end Booth's pathetic life. Duchy of Valeria, previously known as Bernia, was a beautiful countryside with hills and lush green fertile land. The terrain was littered with small ponds, lakes, and majestic rivers. Ever since Booth became the Duke of Valeria, he transformed it into a powerhouse with tourism, businesses, and farming. In a few months under his rule, the Duchy of Valeria became a tourist destination. King Maxim named the duchy after his wife, Valeria, because when he first visited the place, he was mesmerized by its natural beauty. It reminded him of the first time he laid his eyes on Valeria. Most of the population of Valeria was concentrated around the castle on top of a hill. On the hill, there were two castles. One was recently built by Booth, and the other belonged to the royal family of Ithalin. From either castle, one could see the entire Valeria and the adjacent duchy, Diamond Valley. Unlike Booth's castle, the castle of the Ithalin royal family had 6 strong, round towers built on various tactical spots for an ideal defense. They were connected by reinforced, heavy walls made of yellow stone. Refined windows were scattered generously across the walls in an asymmetric pattern, along with symmetric holes for archers and artillery. A great gate with broad metal doors, a drawbridge, and strong defenses protected the castle grounds. Almost all the citizens of Valeria lived surrounding the castle. Hence, small buildings, houses, and other structures populated the grounds outside the castle walls. This castle had clearly stood the test of time. The walls' rocks were aged, and vines and plants grew inside the cracks. Several builders were working on renovating the castle. Booth's castle was at least double the size of this castle. Inside this smaller castle, Queen Valeria headed for her room, following General Booth. To her surprise, he was in his famous battle armor forged from the scales of a royal dragon. The armor had a flat top helm, half a pointed face guard, and 2 pointed openings for the eyes. Attached to the forehead area was a longhorn. The shoulders were rounded, tall, and enormous. They were decorated with a wolf's head on each side. The rest of the armor was made from many layers of smaller scales of a crimson-red dragon. It covered the entire front and back side, but the attachment straps left the sides under the arms exposed. "Why am I here and not with Victoria?" asked Queen Valeria. "This is the safest place you can be, Your Royal Highness," said Booth. "Why is that?" asked Valeria. "Because this is my domain," Booth said. He didn't dare to say he has the spirit child in his castle as a protective measure against ghost. Because Layla was with them, Booth had to bring them to this castle instead of his own. He was ordered to keep Queen Valeria safe until King Maxim Barnes completed his heavenly tribulation. If Booth was at the capital, Ghost might attack them outright, interrupting the heavenly tribulation. Therefore, Victoria planned to keep Ghost as far as possible from the capital. Victoria guarded the fact Maxim Barnes would trigger the heavenly tribulation in a few hours with her life. Only Booth and a few closest members of King Maxim Barnes knew about this. Even Michael thought it would take a few days to trigger the heavenly tribulation. Eventually, Booth, Layla, and Queen Valeria reached the room designated for her. Layla could sense countless runes around the room, but she doubted they would keep Queen Valeria safe if Ghost decided to kill her. After seeing the anger in his eyes, she was unsure whether he would let Valeria live. Anyone else might forgive Valeria and only kill Victoria and Maxim Barnes but not Ghost. The cozy room had one large bed with comfy red blankets. The fireplace burnt, radiating the needed warmth to fight the coldness in the air. Layla could hear the howling wind and notice the snowfall getting worsened by the second through the window. Judging by the look of the weather, anyone could tell a storm was not far. "Booth!" Queen Valeria looked Booth in his eyes. For the first time, Valeria saw a hint of uneasiness in his eyes. Not that Booth worried about his life but Victoria's and her family's. He was strong but not strong enough to take on a half-immortal. "Are you worried?" asked Queen Valeria. She knew Booth from little. They practically grew up together. So it wouldn't be an understatement to say Booth was kind of Valeria's best friend. Deep down, she blamed herself for turning a once innocent, sweet little boy into a killing machine. If she hadn't introduced Booth to Maxim Barnes, Booth would have lived his life in peace and never would have destroyed the sanctuary under the order of Maxim Barnes. Your Highness, why would I be worried? Booth shook his head. Layla was not in the mood to see the two of them whine. As far as she was concerned, they were just facing karma. She walked toward the window. The people of Valeria were still here. Apparently, Booth rejected the idea of evacuating his people as it would show a sign of weakness. Until now, Victoria or Booth didn't think Ghost would be ruthless enough to harm innocent citizens. In Booth's mind, these people were like a protective shield for him. Neither of them knew how utterly wrong they were. Nothing will happen to you or anyone as long as I am here, Your Royal Highness, said Booth. We just need a few more hours. After His Majesty comes out of his heavenly tribulation, he will take care of Ghost himself. Don't be too sure, thought Layla, still looking at the city outside. Ghost is not a fool. He knows interrupting the heavenly tribulation is the best way to ensure his victory, Layla said to herself. Who is with Victoria? Queen Valeria was worried sick about her daughter. After all, Victoria was Ghost's main target. Suddenly, they all heard a rumbling noise in the sky. Layla looked at the sky to see several flying ships on the horizon. Valeria and Booth joined Layla at the windows. Booth could vaguely see the symbol of Guardian Guild on the sails. The Guardians! Queen Valeria looked a bit relieved to see the Guardians finally making their appearance. At this point, she could take any backup she receives. The flying ships slowly sailed toward the castle. Layla could count 12 ships. However, they didn't seem like they were built for war. Instead, these ships were built to carry large amounts of cargo. To be honest, Layla was surprised to see the Guardian ships. It was not a secret the Guardians were financially in crippled state due to their affair with the vampires. Since they had sent these ships despite their political feuds among themselves, Layla could tell someone powerful and influential has involved in this. Mutrad stood on one of the ships. He was in Wuxia to capture the Dark Lord, as he received a piece of news that the Dark Lord would make his appearance in Wuxia from an anonymous source. Since Mutrad had no other clues to follow, he had no choice but to come to Wuxia. On his way, he noticed the destruction caused by Ghost at Diamond Valley. He almost turned the entire duchy into ruins. Go down and evacuate the people as soon as you can. Mutrad turned his gaze over to the red-haired girl on the ship next to him. She managed to put together a team to save the people in a short amount of time. Mutrad was surprised to see a non-crooked guardian in the guild. Chapter 736. Booth vs. Ghost 2. Mutrad noticed the guardians jumping down from the ship to evacuate everyone in Valeria. He couldn't care less of the people. The only reason he was here was to capture the Dark Lord, or at least get a good look at the Dark Lord with his own two eyes. After hearing from his elders how powerful the Dark Lord was when he attacked Ghost in Royal Land, Murad doubted he could stand a chance against the Dark Lord. Unless his elders bring in the ancestors who have been cultivating in seclusion for centuries. No one he knew could stop the Dark Lord. Compared to the Dark Lord, all the other threats seemed childish in his eyes. We have no time, people. Bring everyone you can to the ships before he arrives. Zanali's dominant voice echoed through the air. Until she saves the people of Wuxia, she chose to forget about apprehending Gaia. After Zanali stopped barking orders, everything became deathly silent. This was an eerie silence. The calm before the literal storm. A sudden thunderclap cut through the silence. The sky kept rumbling. Mutrad slowly turned around. He noticed the horizon turning darker and darker. Icy blue lightning struck across the sky, forming a bright web of light in the otherwise dark sky. Even from a mile away, Mutrad could feel the intensity of the approaching storm. The snowfall stopped as though it was terrified of what was coming. The howling wind gradually sounded louder and louder. It brought enough force to make the ships tremble. Murad had never seen or experienced such an intense storm before. It was early in the morning, yet no one would believe that. The darkness made the day look like night. The storm slowly approached them. The trees leaned to a side, almost getting uprooted by the wind. Even Mutrad had to hold onto the ship's rail to prevent himself from losing balance. The gentle light peeked through the winter clouds slowly disappeared. Instead, darkness occupied the sky. Everyone, including Mutrad, thought the storm created this darkness. However, it was the darkness that created this storm. When the god of darkness was furious, nature itself suffered his anger. Only a few minutes later did Mutrad notice a figure beneath the storm clouds. He was surrounded by crackling golden lightning bolts. His hair stood up due to the electricity in the air. As seconds passed by, it became harder to keep the ship steady. The wind was too powerful. "He is here!" Zanali shouted. All the guardians and Mutrad saw Ghost surrounded by crackling lightning bolts. He was literally bringing a storm to the Thusians. When Ghost flew past the grass field around Valeria, his speed uprooted the trees on his way. The trees flew chaotically in the air like paper birds. If the storm was not bad enough, many lightnings struck the ground. Mutrad noticed the trees that survived the wind turned into ashes when lightning struck them. All the elements wreaked havoc in Valeria. The captain of Mutrad's ship turned the rudder using all his might. He finally managed to move the ship away from Ghost's path. Mutrad kept his hand in front of his eyes to stop the dust from getting into his eyes. The closer Ghost got to them, the more violent the wind became. He only got a glimpse of Ghost before he flew past Mutrad's ship. Mutrad's ship barely managed to avoid him. Something trickled down Mutrad's cheek. He whipped it off and brought his hand before his eyes. Blood? Mutrad didn't think the blood came from his face. He closed his eyes for a moment, replaying the image of Ghost flying past him. His mind vaguely remembered a body in Ghost's hand. He realized the blood must have come from the body. Within the castle, Layla saw Ghost getting closer to the castle. Booth shielded Queen Valeria with his body as the royal guards surrounded the castle to fight Ghost. Zanali, on the other hand, leaped to Mutrad's ship. "Aren't you going to help them?" asked Zanali. "It's not my duty to meddle in a war between the kingdoms," Mutrad shrugged. "So you're going to stand here and do nothing? Then why did you come here?" Exnali looked furious. "That's what I am exactly going to do," Mutrad calmly said. He didn't give a damn about this war, especially when the Thusians started it. There are countless people who are worse than the Dark Lord. But you need him to be the hero. Zanali's words made Mutrad frown. She stood on the edge of the ship and turned her head slightly. "A true hero is one who chooses to save lives than fight his foe," said Zanali before diving down. At that moment, Edith and Noah appeared in the sky behind Booth's castle. The moment Noah arrived at Valeria, he was greeted by the approaching storm. He immediately raised his hand as a wave of light swept across the land, including the two castles. There, Noah pointed at the smaller castle behind Booth's castle. He and Edith rushed toward the castle. Many soldiers of Booth ascended to the sky to form a human shield around the castle. Mages began to cast barrier spells as a giant glowing dome appeared around the two castles. They hoped the energy shield would slow down Ghost. They were all ordered to keep Ghost busy for a few hours until their king finished his heavenly tribulation. Everyone hoped the heavenly tribulation would last for 5 days, like Ghost's heavenly tribulation. The golden barrier glistened in the darkness. A couple of fusion stage warriors hovered behind the barrier to fight Ghost. Although they knew they don't stand a chance against Ghost, they still obeyed General Booth's orders. They were soldiers, and it was their duty to follow their generals no matter the outcome. When Michael was just 50 or so meters away from the barrier, dark beams shot out of his eyes and struck the barrier. The barrier itself trembled as several cracks formed around the point where Michael's dark beams hit it. Soon, the barrier shattered, creating a meter-radius hole in it. Layla stepped aside from the windows, looking at something soaring through the air. The window shattered as something landed on the floor with a loud thud. "Arg!" Queen Valeria shouted. They all saw two bodies flayed off their skin, lying on the ground. One body had the name Austin and the other had Zachary engraved and burnt in their chest. Booth had spent decades with Austin and Zachary. But at that moment, she couldn't recognize either of them. Layla was stunned by how ruthlessly Ghost killed them. As a healer, she could tell they were flayed alive. She never expected Ghost was capable of such violence and brutality. "Booth!" A thunderous roar shook the entire castle. The soldiers trembled. Michael's gaze was fixed on the castle. Using his X-ray vision, he could see everyone in the room. He was furious beyond words. Before killing Austin and Zachary, he learned it was none other than Booth who ordered them to kidnap the spirit child as a safety measure. The two generals managed to keep Booth's location a secret until Michael began to flay their skin off alive. Pity they didn't know the location where Booth is keeping the child. But Michael planned to extract the information from Booth one way or another. Seeing no one coming out of the castle, Michael clenched his fist. Immediately, golden bolts of lightning covered his fist. They crackled around his hand like buzzing bees. The mages poured their energy into their spells, strengthening the barrier. The hole created by Michael's eyes of doom slowly closed up. Michael raised both his hands toward the barrier as a lightning bolt shot out from each hand. The moment the lightning bolts hit the barrier trembled. Ripples appeared in the barrier. "If I come there, I will kill everyone inside," Michael threatened Booth. The mages sweated uncontrollably. All of them shivered, trying to keep the barrier intact. However, the barrier slowly lost its glow. Many cracks appeared in the barrier. His eyes slowly turned black before the dark beams shot out of his eyes. He used Ignitia and Eyes of Doom simultaneously. Instead of focusing the beams on where the lightning bolts hit, Michael armies the beams at one of the mages. Since the dark flames strengthened Eyes of Doom, it penetrated the golden barrier faster than the lightning bolts. "Gerardic," a mage coughed up blood. He looked down to see the dark beams penetrating through his chest. He fell down from the sky dead. Another mage fell down from the sky with a hole in his chest. Michael's beam cut through the golden barrier and killed several mages. Ultimately, the barrier flickered as the lightning bolts shattered the shield. Michael was about to enter the castle through the broken window when Booth decided to show himself. Finally, Michael and Booth met each other after almost 2 years. The last time they met, Booth almost beat Abras to death. However, when the two of them fought, Abras was mortally injured. It wasn't a fair fight, just like now. The dark beams and the crackling lightning bolts disappeared from Michael's body. Silence once again enveloped the place. Only the howling wind dared to raise a sound. "Where is the child?" asked Michael. A devilish grin emerged on Booth's face. "Believe me when I say this. If you harm a single hair of anyone in the royal family, you won't find the child ever," said Booth. Noah watched their interaction from the ground. He was helping Zanali evacuate the people. Suddenly, Michael disappeared from Booth's sight. The soldiers were startled by Ghost's sudden disappearance. To Booth's shock, he appeared once again with Queen Valeria in his hand. Booth was stunned. "You will die whether you tell me where the child is or not." Michael squeezed Valeria's neck as her feet frantically squirmed. "The question is, are you willing to let her die?" asked Michael. Looking at Michael squeezing the life out of Valeria, Edith tried to fly toward him, but Noah stopped her. He listened to the conversation between Ghost and Booth and concluded that Booth was the one who took the child. Noah wanted to stop Ghost, but Andreas had other plans. Andreas wasn't willing to let Noah fight Ghost and die before they could confirm for sure that Ghost is the Dark Lord. Even if they confirmed it, Noah wasn't strong enough to fight him. Deep down, Andreas wanted Ghost to kill Valeria because he wanted Noah to see what he's capable of. Unless Noah truly believed that the Dark Lord is an evil that must be uprooted, he wouldn't have the resolve to defeat him. Chapter 737. Booth vs. Ghost 3. Seeing their queen in mortal danger, the soldier rushed out of the Golden Dome. Some dashed at Michael with their swords raised while some cast spells. However, the moment they came out of the dome, a circular wave shot out of Michael. The soldiers screamed as they turned into ashes in a split second. Queen Valeria's face turned purplish. Her legs slowly stopped moving. "Stop!" Booth cried. "I will kill that child if something happens to her," Booth roared. Hearing their words, Layla shivered. Ghost and Booth were talking about a child, and fear clenched her heart for some reason. She flew out of the hole to meet Ghost. She wanted to know whether her child was safe or not. Booth noticed Layla flying towards them. With lightning speed, Booth grabbed Layla and put a dagger in her throat. Layla was caught off guard. Not only her, even Noah and Edith didn't expect Booth to make such a move. Now I have the mother and the child. Booth growled as Michael loosened his grip around Valeria's neck. Layla's body trembled. The temperature around them dropped by several degrees. Her calm eyes turned bloodshot. Soon, her bloodshot eyes turned watery. She may be a cold, tough woman, but she was also a mother. So when her child was in danger, she couldn't be her usual self. Seeing the tears rolling out of Layla's eyes, Michael's killing intent shot through the roof. "Where is my child?" asked Layla with a stuttering voice. "Booth, you kidnapped a child?" Valeria asked Booth. She was still in Michael's hold. "It's for everyone's safety, Your Highness." "This is wrong, Booth. I order you to release the child this instant." Queen Valeria's words warmed the hearts of the Thusian soldiers. Their courage to rescue such a kind queen grew out of bonds in their hearts. "Sorry, Your Highness. I can't do that. As long as His Majesty comes out of his seclusion, I want release the child." Layla clenched her fist. Michael realized she was trying to get out of Booth's hold. However, Michael looked Layla in the eyes, wordlessly telling her to stand down. Even if Michael controlled the spider on Layla's neck and made it bite Booth, there was a high chance of Booth cutting Layla's throat. The blade in Booth's hands was engraved with various runes. He couldn't take the risk of letting Booth cut her throat and then try to heal her. "Layla!" Suddenly, they all heard a panicked voice. They looked in the voice's direction to see Edith and Noah ascending to the sky. "Let her go!" Edith screamed at Booth. But Booth didn't even look Edith in the eyes. "Are you happy now, Edith?" asked Michael. "You successfully endangered a child and your sister's life with your naivety and loyalty towards Thusia." Edith couldn't find a word to respond to Ghost. His voice was filled with such rage and anger that everyone around him felt it hard even to take a breath. "You cannot blame her for your fault," said Noah. "I can when she was the one who forced Layla to tell her about the child, which led to one of his lackeys eavesdropping on their conversation," said Michael. "Everyone calm down." Zanali joined the scene. "We don't have to resort to violence. Just let Queen Valeria and Lady Alden go. We can find a peaceful solution to all this." Zanali tried to calm everyone down. She saw hundreds of soldiers around her. Once Ghost had started to wreak havoc, who could tell how many lives would be lost as collateral damage? "Booth, I am ordering as your queen. Let her go and release the child this instant." Queen Valeria raised her voice. However, Booth just shook his head. Layla looked at Michael. Every fiber in her body told her to fight back for her child's life. But Michael ordered her not to move an inch. "Trust me. I won't let anything happen to you or the child." Layla suddenly heard Michael's words in her head. She was shocked. Layla didn't know how he was able to talk to her telepathically despite her mental fortitude. "Don't try to be a hero, bitch. You stood there watching him slaughter people without lifting a finger. You incompetent fools could do nothing. The Guardians are just a waste of space," Booth growled. "You started this war," Zanali snarled. "And you did nothing then, and you're doing nothing now," Booth snickered. Noah couldn't disagree with Booth because Booth was right. This was the reason why Noah decided to reform the Guardians from the ground up. It was once an institute that instigated peace and kept the world in order. Now, the Guardian Guild was nothing but a corrupted organization with a bunch of political snobs running the place to the ground. If he had been in charge of the Guardian Guild, he would have stopped Maxim Barnes from waging war against other kingdoms in the first place. But the Guild let King Maxim Barnes do whatever he wanted, saying the Guild had no right to meddle with the kingdom's affairs. "This will end in only one way: the destruction of Thusia. You just ensured the death of every single person you care for," said Michael. His words made every single Thusian soldier panic. "Please, let her go," Edith pleaded as tears gushed out of her eyes. Michael noticed Noah slowly moving his hands behind his back. Noah looked at Michael from the corner of his eyes as though he was trying to say something. Michael could tell Noah was about to cast a spell to stop Booth. Although Noah was his mortal enemy, Michael knew Noah wasn't incompetent. Hence, Michael trusted Noah to get Layla out of Booth's hold. Everyone stood still without even lifting a finger. Layla felt the cold blade against her throat. The orb of light shined brighter and bright behind Noah's back. Noah made a fist and released his index finger, then his middle finger as though he was counting. Michael noticed his fingers, and when Noah released his ring finger, completing the count of 3, a bright light flashed across the sky. The light petrified everyone that it touched except Michael. In a blink of an eye, Noah dashed at Booth, grabbed Layla, and dashed away from him. Everything happened in a split second. Unfortunately, the petrification lasted long for only a second on Booth. He didn't even realize what had just happened. His eyes widened seeing Layla with Noah. Noah immediately tried to dash toward Ghost to save Valeria, but he was too slow. Michael tightened his grip around Valeria's neck as her head exploded into a bloody red mist. No! Booth's roar echoed through the sky and made the entire kingdom tremble. Valeria's blood splashed across Noah's face, turning his white robes red. The soldiers were stunned by the brutal yet sudden death of Queen Valeria. Her lifeless corpse slowly fell down into the sky. Without wasting any second, Michael dashed at Booth. Wind blast. He cast a spell while moving toward Booth and blasted away everyone around him, including Noah. Noah was thrown off balance, and so was everyone. Booth and Michael clashed in the middle. Michael didn't cast any spells but used his fists to beat Booth. The two of them flew through the castle. Boulders and stones crumbled down as they cut through the castle. Michael punched Booth without holding back. Just like Michael, Booth too didn't cast any spells because he was too furious to do so. The castle trembled while the towers slowly tilted to the side, threatening to crumble down. "Get everyone to safety!" Zanali roared. She noticed hundreds of soldiers who were unable to fly standing on the ground. "Layla!" Edith immediately dashed toward Layla and embraced her. "Where is my child?" Layla raised her voice. "Noah." Edith turned her gaze toward Noah. If anyone could find the child, it was Noah. The castle tower finally collapsed down as the soldiers on the ground tried to run away as fast as they could. However, the tower fell right on top of them, crushing them to death. Zanali was able to save some but not all. At that moment, Noah had two choices: saving the child, which might be somewhere in the castle, which was currently crumbling down, or saving the soldiers. Save the child, Noah. The soldiers and the people have Zanali and the guardians. "The child has no one," said Andreas. Noah didn't waste any time because every second cost a life. He didn't think he could stop Ghost and Booth from destroying the castle completely. In fact, he couldn't even see them. "Teacher, you are a spirit. You can sense another spirit, right?" Noah asked Andreas. "Layla has given the child a body, but I can manage to find it. But it will take all my soul energy. I won't be here to help you until you replenish my soul energy, Noah. Find the child, teacher. I got your back." Andreas left Noah's body in a flash of light. The light blinded everyone for a moment. Layla noticed a thin layer of light covering the area around her. Layla was about to rush into the castle when Noah stopped her. "Found the child. Follow me." Noah led the two young women into the crumbling castle. The castle trembled uncontrollably. The interior of the castle was in a mess. All the portraits fell off the wall, and many pathways were blocked by broken walls. Some parts even caught on fire. The fire slowly spread through the castle. While following the light trail only Noah could see, he saw his path was blocked by boulders. With a single punch, Noah destroyed the boulders, clearing the path. Noah could still feel the effects of the battle between Ghost and Booth. The screams of the soldiers from the outside echoed through the castle walls. Many who were trapped in the castle ultimately lost their lives. Even with several dozen guardians and Zanali, they couldn't save all the Thusians. Noah wanted to stop hearing the cries for help. The echoes of their howls made Noah tremble with anger and helplessness. "How far?" Edith asked. "We are getting closer," said Noah. He led the girls into the dungeon. Many of the steps crumbled down in front of their eyes. The torches lit the dark path to the underground dungeon. The area sickened Layla. She couldn't even imagine what her child is feeling in a place like this. They climbed down the spiral steps as fast as they could. Suddenly, the wall nearby shattered, almost robbing them of their balance. A powerful gust of wind went from one end to another. Noah could swear it was Ghost and Booth fighting like madmen. They endangered the life of the child trapped within the underground prison because of their anger. "Harry!" Layla's shout echoed through the dark dungeon. No one responded from the dark dungeon as they climbed down the stairs. The eerie silence brought tears out of Layla's eyes. "Mother!" Finally, a child's voice emerged from the dark underground.